Hi, please support this video with a big like.
You are mistaken, Madara. A dull pain pierced the Uchiha in the chest area. You are not a savior, and this is not the end, the Black Zetsu said, flashing his Sharingan. How can you calmly say that you are right? Or is it impossible for you to accept that you are wrong, Madara? The traitor continued, questioning the half-dead Uchiha with some interest. What are you talking about, Zetsu? I created you, you are my will. The Uchiha shouted with anger. Well, you are mistaken again, there is only one will in me, and it does not belong to you at all, Uchiha Madara, Zetsu said with a sly grin, it belongs to Kaguya, the true goddess. Now the time has come, Uzumaki mentally said, allowing himself a small and almost imperceptible smile. And suddenly the earth began to shake, dense clumps of chakra rose in large numbers from the depths of the bark and rushed into Madara's body, starting to be absorbed into it. Where does such a dense flow of chakra come from? Sakura asked scared. Looks like people trapped in the infinite Tsukuyomi. As always, the Uchiha answered her unemotionally. Everyone noticed that a new female figure appeared on the battlefield. Now she will manipulate this game, because she is the ancestor of all shinobi and now she has appeared here. The unearthly beauty of the girl overshadowed everything. Puffy scarlet lips, eyes of a fierce white-gray color, unusually long blonde hair, shimmering blue, that's how you could describe Otsutsuki on the battlefield. Having emerged from Madara's body, Kaguya remembered her plans for this world. The old man was talking about her. Otsutsuki. Kaguya, the Uchiha said, breathing heavily. Activating the Byakugan, the rabbit goddess saw the marks on the hands of the Uzumaki and the Uchiha. Those two must be Hagoromo and Hamura. No, Indra and Ashura, the goddess said aloud as she watched Naruto and Sasuke. So Hagoromo gave you these powers and techniques, Otsutsuki said with contempt. I never would have thought that people like her could exist. This is a chakra, transcendental power, surpassing the power of Madara, the descendant of Indra reasoned in his thoughts. What is your goal? Kakashi asked desperately. It was the earth that raised me. I will not allow you to destroy it further, the goddess replied. Let's end this fight. I will wipe you from the face of the earth here and now, Otsutsuki answered with a chuckle. Well then, come on. The blonde shouted with a fake smile, banging his fist against his palm, already preparing his chakra-charged leg for a strike, knowing all the goddess's techniques and her crown trick with landscape change. And in order to prevent this right now, Naruto revealed his first trump card. Hey! Heim! Otsutsuki, the blonde boy drew the attention of the goddess. Hello to you, from Momoshiki and Kinshiki. After what was said, shock, surprise, misunderstanding were reflected on the face of the goddess, however, the same emotions appeared on the faces of the teammates due to ignorance of the meaning of these names. Wasting no time and not missing this opportunity, Naruto, with all the speed he was capable of with the cloak of Bijou, tore out the Rinnegan of Sasuke, who was standing nearby, and kicked his chakra-charged leg, sending him flying. Oddly enough, the goddess was surprised at this behavior. This descendant of Ashura was too unpredictable, since he could surprise even her. Kakashi and Sakura had no idea what was going on. Flashback. POV Acnologia. Oh, what would you do? Maybe go look for the remaining dragons and kill them and their students. Or maybe attack some village or city and eat all the miserable people living there. No, it's not worth it, otherwise there will be no one at all who could entertain me. Maybe attack some guild. Maybe fairy tale. Lately, they've been very angry. And what? Judging by the rumors reaching me, they have a very strong master, Makarov, it seems. How about taking on an apprentice? Good idea. At least he will cheer me up, although, no such person has yet been born who can harness my power as the Dragon King. Thought up, I'll visit Edolas, I've never been there. How was Zeref doing there? With the help of space runes, write symbols in the air and release mana, this should open the portal. Here it is. Well, meet and tremble, Edolas. We take a step through the portal, and here I am standing in the middle of the street at night. What the hell, and this is the vaunted Edolas, kind of a remote village. What is this? Some strange flow of magical energy is coming from the alley. This is weird. I looked in and saw a boy sitting on the ground for 6 or 7 years. This power comes from him, I have never met such a person in my life. And with so many, this level of magical power is about a third of my level. We need to talk to him. Never seen one like this in my life. And with so many, this level of magical power is about a third of my level. We need to talk to him. Never seen one like this in my life. And with so many, this level of magical power is about a third of my level. We need to talk to him. Who are you? I asked the boy. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. And who are you? Acnologia. What a strange name. You're getting bold, you bastard. No, sorry, I was just surprised. Are you a foreigner, not from this village? No, but what? You see, you just have a different look. I am not of this world. How is that? Yes, long story. Better tell me about yours. Alright, this is Shinobi World. Shinobi. Tell me about him. Yes, and about yourself. And I'm too bored. Okay, this is the ninja world. So, and the story dragged on for 5 hours. He talked about villages, about ranks and getting them, about the history of the shinobi world. He also spoke about himself, about what he had to endure in his age. Yeah, you're an interesting person, Naruto. It looks like you've been living alone for a long time. Okay, even though you're a fool, I want to offer you something. I'm not a fool. And what do you want to offer me? I want to give you 5 gifts because you look like me. Oh yeah, I didn't tell you about my world. So listen, and then I began the story. I told him the story of my world. About how magic appeared, about Zeref, about his demons from his own books, about dark, light and independent guilds, about the union of dark guilds, sons of the fatherland, about the council of wizards, about God's chosen wizards, about the wizards themselves and much, a lot of. And then I told him about myself, that I am the Dragon King, and that I can take the form of a person, etc. Naruto, listen to me carefully. The first and second gifts are the credo, and here are the rest. End POV Acnologia. END flashback. Clone technique, the Uzumaki suddenly spoke up, and 6 clones appeared next to him. 4 of them stood back to back, forming a kind of cross. 2 of them looked at the goddess, who burned her eyes with a kind of curiosity and interest. The blonde himself did not stop looking at the Uchiha, who held his hands on his head in order to at least relieve the pain from losing his eye, but still did not take his uncomprehending gaze from the Uzumaki, looking at him with the remaining eternal Manjiko Sharingan. What are you doing, Naruto? Sasuke yelled furiously at the blonde, to which Uzumaki only smiled his signature smile and scratched his head as he spoke. Oh, sorry, Sasuke, it happened by accident. After such an answer, the Uchiha froze in a dumb stupor, not understanding Naruto's actions. But in an instant, the smirk disappeared from the face of the blonde, and he gave an order to the 4 clones in a flat voice. You know what to do, the clones responded in unison with, Hi. East. The first one shouted and ran at lightning speed to the named place. West. Added the second and without delay rushed off in that direction. South. Only the 3rd clone managed to say, as he immediately disappeared in that direction. North, finished the last clone and immediately disappeared in that direction. Mom, what is he doing? You understand? Zetsu asked, concerned about the situation. It's hard to understand. I can't even imagine what's going on in the head of the heir of Ashura, the rabbit goddess replied. Part 1. Battlefield. I'm sorry for the delay. Have you managed to find out anything? The newly arrived Minato asked the other Kage. The only one we managed to find is Madara. Or rather, its lower half, Hashirama said in a tired voice. Be that as it may, Madara's technique doesn't work on the dead like us, Tobirama drawled, looking up at the moon. Since there's only half of him, can he be considered dead? Minato asked his comrades. If we can get proof of his death, we can use the bottom half to bring him back with Edo Tensei. At the same time, we will find out all the details, Tobirama suggested the idea. But that will require another sacrifice. Hashirama, completely dissatisfied with this arrangement, got in. But it was the sage of the 6 paths who appeared next to them that caught the Kage's attention. I see that you are indeed very kind, the incarnation of Ashura. You, was the only thing Hashirama could say after what he saw. My name is Hagoromo. I am the one who gave people Ninsha and became known as the sage of the 6 paths, the sage said affably. Ha 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 ha. I fell for this technique, stupid. An infectious laugh came from the clone after using the sexy jutsu on the goddess. Be careful. The second clone growled menacingly at the first, and at that time the goddess began to boil and did not notice the absence of the original. Tsukuyomi. Hovering in the sky at the level of clouds, said the Uzumaki. Come on, work. For a moment, Tomo's symbols began to flicker on the moon, the technique succumbed and disappeared. The choke Tomo Rinnegan is rather weak, it's only for a while, the main thing is to be in time, the blonde said, taking a breath and breathing hard. And on Earth, the disappearance of the virgin forest began, and the people who were in captivity were gradually freed from technology. Now they saw the clear night sky in reality, and not its illusion. They smiled happily, thinking that this was the end of the war, but, two powerful explosions occurred above their heads high in the sky. Naruto's subconscious. Ha ha ha, oh, I can't, Naruto tore out that Uchiha's eye, the one-tailed Shikaku laughed heartily. Brother, calm down, now the fate of the world is being decided outside, and you, Matatabi overshadowed his joy, after which all the Bijou began to discuss the events, meeting with their creator, etc. Only Kurama subsided, thinking, I missed it. Come on, catch up, Haimatsutsuki, the Uzumaki shouted with a smile, intent on pissing off the rabbit goddess even more. I will personally kill you, boy. And I'll take all your chakra. Mom, he's provoking you. Something is unclean here, Zetsu warned, fearful of the blonde. Shut up. The goddess replied angrily. Flying through the sky and taking turns exchanging techniques, Naruto was playing for time with all his might. Sasuke-kun, let me help you, Sakura began to treat him, worried about the brunette. What happened, Sasuke? Sensei Uchiha asked. Naruto suddenly plucked out my eye, Sasuke replied, clenching his fists in rage and hatred for his friend. It's too weird. It doesn't look like him, Hatake said his thoughts aloud. Maybe we can find him and ask him. Maybe he didn't want to take your eye, Sasuke-kun. I don't think so. His face, that look. This is the first time I see this with him, remembering what happened, the Uchiha reasoned aloud, but his thoughts were interrupted by the pink-haired one. Look at the moon. Madara's technique is gone. Sakura was shocked. Tsukuyomi has disappeared, but the fight continues. Oddly enough, the Mizukage expressed the opinion of all the Kage and other shinobi. A yellow light appeared on the horizon, rapidly approaching them. Everyone recognized in him the face of the hero of Konoha and were delighted. Naruto-kun, you are safe, Hinata said, approaching the blonde and smiling sincerely, with noticeable relief. I'm glad you're all right, the clone replied, panting. Hinata, can you find your father and bring him to me? And don't ask why, there's no time. Okay, Naruto-kun, nodding her head in agreement, she ran off in search of her father Hyuga. And the clone, having gone into his thoughts and nervously walking back and forth, did not notice the 5 Kage, friends and other shinobi that crowded around him and desperately bombarded him with questions. Gaara snapped him out of his thoughts. Wake up, Naruto. What happened to you? Everything is fine. The Kazekage asked worriedly. It's fine, the blonde muttered, looking away. What about Madara, Naruto? The Hokage turned to him. He's dead. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief after saying that. But this is not the end. What? The Raikage shouted, how is this to be understood? Explain yourself. No time for inner talk. Uzumaki yelled at him in a frenzy, burning a hole in him with a furious gaze. And unconsciously released a stream of chakra around him. Everyone seemed to have been shocked, and they flinched from the pressure of the Uzumaki's chakra. Cool down, boy. We are all having a hard day, that Tsuchikage broke in, you wanted something. But before he could finish, Hinata returned and said. Naruto-kun, I brought my father. Thank you, Hinata, and now please leave us. Hyuga, as always, was modest and, unconsciously showing a sea of emotions on her face, slowly left so as not to interfere. I need something from you. Naruto looked around at the people present, namely, Tsuchikage-sama, Mizukage-sama and Karen Uzumaki, pointing his finger at the red-haired girl with glasses who was standing next to the Sannin, a little of your blood. And most importantly, yours, Hayashi-sama, right Byakugan and chakra. Everyone looked at the blonde in shock, and Orochimaru did what he did all the time, he licked his lips. Let me ask, Naruto-kun, what are you doing this for? Orochimaru asked a curious question. I'll explain it later. So, will you give me what I asked for or not? Quickly, there is no time to think. After this statement, the Kage and Karen, under the gaze of the snake Sannin, extended their hands, and Uzumaki took a little blood from each. Only Hyuga remained. Hayashi-sama, if you refuse, I'll have to ask for Hinata's eye. No. Don't you dare, Hyoga exclaimed, take him away. After a short hesitation, the blonde began removing the eye. The Hokage didn't look away at all and stared in shock at Naruto's work, but suddenly a blue beam hit the night sky. Gotcha, Haim. That's it, thanks to everyone, it's time for me to go to the original, I'm a clone, Uzumaki said, fixing his gaze on the snake Sannin. Ah, yes, Orochimaru-sama, your vaunted wind met the mountain. Uzumaki smiled his fake smile and disappeared in the direction of the blue beam. How interesting. A few minutes earlier. Don't leave, blonde. Almost reaching out with her hands to Uzumaki, Haim said, but he abruptly went down, breaking only at the very ground. So you got caught, arrogant boy, but before the goddess had time to finish, she fell under the influence of the barrier. And now, left without chakra, she was falling down under the influence of gravity, and at the bottom there was already a widely smiling Jinchuriki. Kami-sama, please give me something beautiful. Stretching his hands up, the Uzumaki exclaimed to the whole district. And in that moment, he caught Kaguya. Oh, thank you, Kami-sama, Naruto said without taking his eyes off the snow-white goddess he held in his hands. At first she did not understand what had happened, but then she met the blonde's expressive gaze and remembered their fight before, about her plans. The face of the goddess reflected anger at the descendant of Ashura. All or nothing, flashed through the blonde's head. In just a second, knocking her down on her shoulder blades, he kissed her gently on the lips. Anger instantly disappeared from Kaguya's face, replaced by confusion and confusion. Their tongues, having met, were closely intertwined in a stormy dance filled with ardor and passion. A few seconds later, Kaguya, having come to her senses, made an attempt to escape, but she was somehow very weak and clumsy, as if her body was working against its own desires. And after a few moments, she completely gave up. Finally, they began to run out of air. Naruto, not wanting to break the kiss, but still forced to do so, finally lightly bit her lip just as gently, as if trying to capture those few blissful seconds in the memory of both. Uzumaki looked into her white-gray eyes without looking up, and Kaguya was silent. Her cheeks flushed with a scarlet blush that betrayed her snow-white skin, and the heart was completely ready to jump out of the chest, it beat so often. But she decided to punish him for his arrogance, slightly, but tangibly for him, hitting his knee in the groin. Pain was reflected on the face of the descendant of Ashura. For what? Naruto said plaintively and collapsed right on the goddess. Get off me, you bastard. Otsutsuki pushed him away with all her might. It was worth it? The clone asked the original, helping him up. Definitely. Uzumaki replied, touching his lips with a finger. You came just in time. Naruto asked looking at the blue stone that glowed at the center of the barrier. As you can see, the clone smiled at the original and dispersed. The barrier was small. The cube was 10 meters by 10 meters, but it was as tall as the barrier that Jubi was holding back. In the center of it lay a small blue stone the size of a fist and divided it into two halves from the inside. Haim Otsutsuki sat with an aristocratic air in the right, and Naruto Uzumaki sat in the left with his legs folded like a Turkish, who greedily undressed the goddess with his eyes. The goddess was the first to break the silence. Descendant of Ashura, she began, but was interrupted by the boy. Naruto. What Naruto? Haim didn't understand. Uzumaki Naruto. That's my name. Naruto, how did you do that? Left me without chakra? Kaguya asked calmly. Long story, I'll tell you later. The rabbit goddess only snorted at such an answer from the blonde. Did she get caught? The newly arrived clone asked looking at the goddess as he passed the Kage blood and Hyuga's dojutsu to the Uzumaki. Moths fly, into the light. The show will start soon, the clone said with a smile and disappeared, and Naruto himself sat back and waited. After half an hour of waiting, everyone who remained alive, and the resurrected Kage with Hagoromo, came to the barrier and saw Naruto and Kaguya, who were sitting calmly, as if at home. Naruto, are you okay? Minato asked his son worriedly. Yes dad, it's okay, the Uzumaki replied calmly as everyone started asking him questions. Naruto, what happened to Madara? Hashirama asked, but received an answer from the Uchiha. He's dead, Sasuke said as coolly as he could and asked his question to the blonde. Naruto, why did you rip out my eye? Speak, the last Uchiha asked with hatred, and the blonde only scratched his head and smiled. Do not ignore me, Uzumaki. Did you take Sasuke-kun's eye? Karen asked in shock, adjusting her glasses. What are you talking about, you idiot? Yes, and why did you need my eye? And Kage blood? Hyuga asked. Naruto, I don't recognize you. What happened to you? Sakura asked, worried about her friend. The smirk on the Uzumaki's face immediately disappeared and he spoke. How dare you, you pink-haired fool, say that you know me. You can't see beyond your nose. Just give you Sasuke-kun. Frivolous egoist. Get out of my sight and better not interfere, as always. Uzumaki shouted at the girl, to which she sank to the ground and began to cry. Her childhood friend Ino approached her and began to comfort her. Everyone's faces showed shock and surprise at the Uzumaki's change. And you Uchikovsko-ji, but... He pointed at Sasuke, a lamb pretending to be a wolf. No matter how hard you try, you won't be able to get stronger. Strength is not achieved by such methods. You never appreciated what you had. You are a coward and blind even with a Sharingan. You raised your hand to the sacred, you killed your brother, which means it was you who killed your father and mother, and you slaughtered your clan, not him. You yourself doomed yourself to eternal loneliness. Shut up. Screaming furiously, Sasuke hit the barrier. Stop Naruto, why are you doing this? Kakashi asked with outward calmness. Hello to you too, sensei. Don't teach me how to live if you can't handle your life. You cannot let go of the past, thereby ruining the present and not being able to see the future. So draw your own conclusions. Calm down, Naruto, my boy. You were so cheerful, Sarutobi addressed him. Third Hokage. You have been lying all your life, looking at my face, so stand silently. As you were standing, the blonde replied, but suddenly Naruto's eyes changed, becoming red with a vertical pupil, and he turned to the sage. Father. Kurama, is that you? Yes father, listen, Naruto has changed and radically. I've been with him since he was born, but I don't recognize him. Maybe it's all her fault. Kurama showed on Hamatsutsuka that she was sitting and silently watching everything, and the old man thought about the words of the fox, but until that moment the silent goddess suddenly spoke. My name is Kagaya Otsutsuki, or Rabbit Goddess, as people call me in the annals of history. This Naruto-kun guy is the most unpredictable person I've ever met, and I wonder why he knows my past when even my sons don't. You all say that he has changed, maybe you just don't know him yourself. He is hiding something, or he has some purpose unknown to any of us. He caught me in this barrier, which no one else in history has been able to do. If he does not tell, then most likely we will not know the truth. Everyone present thought about the words of the goddess, but then Naruto regained control of his body. I'm sorry Kurama, but even you don't know the purpose of my life, because in the beginning you wanted to kill me and I blocked my subconscious. As the saying goes, the less you know, the better you sleep. What other purpose, Naruto? Dream of becoming Hokage? Are you talking about this? You should be the new Hokage. Tsunade asked hopefully. I, Hokage-sama, don't owe anyone. Looking straight ahead, the Uzumaki replied with a note of coldness in his voice. I have saved Konoha so many times, mission in the land of demon, battle against the demon Morio, capture of the S-class nuke Nin Hiriko, battle against the tailless, battle against pain, etc. I have always given all my best, and in return, I did not even receive your trust. I remember everything. After everything I did, you betrayed me and sent me to a bloody prison. They didn't even want to listen to me, and don't make excuses that this was a mission. If Ryuzetsu hadn't sacrificed her life, I wouldn't be standing in front of you. She only knew me for 20 days and gave me the most precious thing she had, her life. And you? Naruto looked at the crowd. Naruto-kun, please stop. Hinata turned the blonde's attention to herself with tears in her eyes. Hinata. Innocent, timid, strong, always blushing at the sight of the demon of Konoha. You were a ray of sunshine that warmed me with your light. I knew about your feelings for me, but tried not to notice them, because you knew me only half. If everything were different, I could confess to you that I love you too. From Uzumaki's words and from everything that happened, Hyuga lost consciousness. As always, my Heim, Naruto smiled sincerely. Part 2. All Shinobi, the 5 Kage, the legends of the past in the face of the resurrected Hokage, the blonde's friends, who considered themselves to be them, the revived myth, the sage of the 6 paths, and the goddess in reality, Kagaya Otsutsuki, everyone looked at Uzumaki. Some with hatred and contempt, some with incomprehension and curiosity, some with shock and fear, the whole gamut of feelings was now reflected on their faces, which did not surprise the Uzumaki. The lingering silence was interrupted by the blonde's father. Naruto, stop it. What are you doing? They are your friends. Sorry, father, I understand your reaction, as well as theirs, but please, not now. You don't know me and neither do they, you only saw my mask that I wore. You can't draw conclusions based on what you've seen before. And in general, father, the dead are not asked for debts. Naruto's last words upset Minato to the core. Now the fourth chewed on his son and did not understand Naruto's changes. In the war he was a completely different person, and now, Naruto, why didn't you and Sasuke seal my mother? The sage turned to the blonde. She is a danger to this world. That's a good question, Hagoromo-san. Turning his head towards the goddess, who also watched with interest, listened to the conversation and wanted to know the Uzumaki's answer to this question, Naruto drawled. How to put it mildly? In general, I have my own plans for it. Uzumaki answered with a smile and winked at Hamatsutsuki, to which Kagaya only uttered the word baka, and then quietly, but the blonde read his lips and grinned. And what are your plans, youngster? Tobirama said, ahead of everyone. Don't rush, Naidame Hokage, I'll tell you everything, even show you, but first I need your help. You have no choice, if you refuse, I will ask someone else. And what do you want from me? Resurrect one person from the Uzumaki clan. Naruto took out the box from the seal and threw it into the hands of the Hokage, while the Uzumaki himself began to wait for the ritual. The Hokage, meanwhile, took out DNA and a sealed white zetsu from the box and began preparations for the Edo Tensei technique. And in a moment, the Hokage hit the ground with his palm, and the wooden coffin rose from its depths. When it opened, the older generation of shinobi took their breath away from what exactly they saw. The Yondame Hokage, Sandame Hokage, Godame Hokage, and even Orochimaru were surprised, but only one word came out of their mouths, Kushina. Kushina's eyelids twitched and her eyes finally opened. When the kunoichi was able to fully open her eyes, she stared blankly at the sky. The next thing she saw was the face of her long-dead husband, grinning from ear to ear, tears welling up in his eyes. Kushina spoke. She uttered just one word, but her soft and gentle voice made everything turn inside the fourth. Minato. Not believing in the reality of what is happening, she said. Kushina. Minato, what's going on here? What am I doing here? Uzumaki's temper made itself felt. Tsunade-sama, you haven't changed a bit. Orochimaru-sama and you are here. Hayashi-san, Kakashi-kun. Obito, you seem to be, but her son did not allow her to finish, whom she did not notice, or maybe she simply did not recognize. Mom, you got to the end of the Fourth World War, and you were resurrected at my request. And Naruto, Kushina shifted her gaze in shock, and when she saw her son for the first time in years, she couldn't stop herself. How you have grown. How beautiful you are. You've become just like Minato. Is it true, dear? She asked, looking in the direction of the fourth, to which he smiled sadly. Kushina wanted to approach Naruto, but the barrier prevented her. Naruto, come out quickly, I want to hug you. No, Mom, later. You are here to witness a significant day, however, like everyone else here. What day? End of the war. Uzumaki did not understand what her son said. Mom, come to your father and stand next to him. Look how he's waiting for you. Naruto said with a smile. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Saying the name of the technique, Naruto created 9 clones outside the barrier. Ninpo. Shintenshin no Jutsu, Mind Transfer Technique, 9 Transfer. After using Yamanaka Ikuzoku's Hidenjutsu technique, everyone stared at Naruto in shock, especially Ino, but the blonde himself was the first to break the silence. Shikaku, Matatabi, Isabu, Son Goku, Kokuo, Saiken, Chome, Gyuki, Kurama, he addressed the clones with the mind of tailed ones. Was the transfer successful? Yes, Naruto-kun, but how did you do that? Matatabi asked. This is the technique of the Yamanaka clan, I learned from them. Naruto, how did you know the secret of the clan? Ino couldn't resist. Stole. Why not, Ino? Yamanaka was dumbfounded by the arrogance of the blonde and could not object. Don't be so surprised. This is just the beginning. Naruto smiled his fake smile and continued. Kagaya-hime, Hagoromo-san, Shikaku, Matatabi, Isabu, Son Goku, Kokuo, Saiken, Chome, Gyuki, Kurama, Shodai Hokage, Naidame Hokage, Third Hokage and Yondame Hokage, Godame Hokage, Kazekage, Reikage, Tsuchikage, Mizukage, Kakashi-sensei, Obito, Sasuke, Sakura, Ino, Kiba, Shino, Sai, Choji, Shikamaru, Kankuro, Temari, Hinata, Hayashi-san, Karen, Suigetsu, Yugo, Orochimaru-sama and all. I, Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, former demon of Konoha, former hero of Konoha and almost hero of the 5 nations, renounce everything. You are witnesses to that. Looking at the crowd, he took off the protector and threw it at the legs of the shinobi. Ha 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 ha, I couldn't resist, sorry. After Naruto's speech, everyone went into the astral plane. Only Kushina and Minato realized what their son had done and could not believe it. Naruto, honey, why did you do that? Why did you quit everything? Meeting the eyes of the blonde, Kushina asked the question that tormented everyone. I also want to ask you something. Why are you all fighting this war? For the sake of the future, for the sake of tomorrow, Naruto. Kakashi replied, trying in vain to find answers in his student's eyes. There were claps from Naruto's side. Me too, Kakashi-sensei, me too, but then why did you quit everything? Minato's voice trembled a little with excitement. At that moment, his son was ruining his life right in front of his eyes. Past. POV Naruto. Acnologia-sama, why all these gifts? I'm nobody. I'm just the demon of this village. Naruto, I told you we're alike. In the past, society did not accept me either. And look what I've become. Now I do not need this society for nothing, I have long outlived them. If I want to, I will become the emperor, or I will not, if the desire does not appear. If you get to my level, your point of view will change, I'm sure. And you also turned 7 today, and these gifts are my gifts. The Dragon King himself came to you and presented gifts, be proud of it. Thank you, Acnologia-sama. May I ask you something? Ask. I have no father and mother, and no one tells me who they are. Can I call you father and take your name as a surname? For example, Naruto Akno, does it sound right? Naruto said, looking down a bit, looking down. Can. But how do you like the surname Bahamut? Bahamut, beautiful. And it sounds. The blonde exclaimed with fire in his eyes. What does it mean, father? Void Dragon. Cool. Hurry, Naruto. On one condition, if you surpass me, then you will be worthy to bear this name. And then if some weakling will bear the name of the dragon, it's a shame for me as for one of them. So, Naru, only on such terms. I promise I will surpass you. Ha ha ha, well, look, I will be watching you and your progress. These are my last words, Naru, I won't be able to come to you anymore. It pulls me back, I got here by mistake. Farewell Naruto. Bye, father, I will never forget you. Naruto yelled, almost breaking his voice. End POV. They say that when you look death straight in the eyes, you can find out what you are worth, the Uzumaki said slowly approaching the snake Sannin. Stopping beside him, he said, do you think, Orochimaru-sama, have you come to the brink? Did you get to know yourself better? I think not, you are afraid to die. What are you talking about, Naruto-kun? It doesn't matter anymore. Okay, let's get down to business, Orochimaru-sama. Please give me the mask of the god of death that you took from Uzumaki Ikizoku no Nomendo. How did you know that? You weren't there, Sasuke asked Naruto, calming down a little, to which the blonde only sighed heavily. Sasuke, I'll refresh your memory. The soul of his father was taken by the Shinigami, the third also sealed the souls of the first and second, and was himself sealed along with them. Now look around, they are all standing in front of your nose. This means that Shiki Fujin's seal was opened, and I doubt it was you or your Taka team who opened it. For then one of you should not be here, because he would have been feeding the worms a long time ago. Only Orochimaru-sama remains, because he can change the body, am I right? He looked at the Sannin, who was smiling at the performance. Hold it, Naruto-kun. But what do you want to do with her? Orochimaru asked, throwing his mask at the blonde at the barrier. Oddly enough, but the mask passed through the barrier, and Uzumaki slowly moved away with it. I want to look into the face of death and find out if it is really as terrible as they say about it. Everyone was horrified by what was said. Even the rabbit goddess did not expect this, but she did not stop watching the actions of the blonde, as if enchanted. Don't do this, Naruto, his parents and some of Uzumaki's friends shouted at the top of their voices, looking with genuine fear for the blonde. You wanted to know about me, so enjoy. Saying this, Uzumaki put on his mask, and the god of death appeared behind him, who was looking at the back of Naruto's head. The blonde slowly turned around and spoke to the Shinigami, "Finish the seal, I have fulfilled my contract clause." Taking off his torn clothes, he turned his back to the god of death. Now the blonde saw in front of him a diverse range of emotions on everyone's faces, but this did not bother him much. Only when he saw the tears of his mother and father did he become upset. It is very painful for them to see the death of their child. And the Shinigami, meanwhile, was finishing the print based on Rakudo Chibaku Tensei. This seal works as a senjutsu store, and Byakugo no Jutsu as a store of sen chakra, Hiden Jutsu, Uzumaki Ikizoku, Hak no Fuin Shiki as a basis. This technique combines 5 strong jutsu of the shinobi world, enhanced by the god of death himself. All this was formed into a beautiful drawing of the black dragon and the white tiger. As agreed, Shinigami, Naruto broke the mask right in front of the god of death and handed him the scroll. "There are all 80,000 martyrs," he said the last in God's ear. After that, the Reaper disappeared as suddenly as he appeared. Everyone else continued to watch in shock, not knowing what to say. Comment to Part 2. Bahamut is the name of a mythological and fantasy monstrous divine entity. Initially, Bahamut, Bahamut, appeared in Arabic mythology. Part 3. Naruto-kun, why didn't the god of death take your life? Orochimaru asked calmly, hiding his interest well. "I made a contract with him when I summoned him the first time." "For the first time? But how? When did you have time?" Minato asked his son in shock. "When I was 14 years old. That's when I called on the god of death, father." Looking directly into the eyes of the fourth, Naruto replied coldly. "For what, Naruto?" asked Kurama, who had remained silent until now. "Due to being half Uzumaki, I studied Fuin Jutsu, Hiden Jutsu of the clan, such as Kongo Fusa Chains, Shusho Fuin, Hak no Fuin Shiki and Byakugo but Mito Uzumaki Jutsu and more." "And why did you summon the god of death?" "You never said," Kagaya said, having been watching the blonde all this time. "I should have kept the most powerful technique of my brothers, Fuinjutsu Chibaku Tensei Haguroma and Hamura." "What are you doing, Naruto? What did you think?" the sage asked the blonde. "I set a goal, to unite what is essentially impossible to unite." Naruto looked down at his hands. "What do you mean, Naruto?" Sasuke asked in annoyance. "The human soul strives for joy consciously or not. Her desire is manifested through knowledge and interests. Saying what you did and what you achieved is very important in itself. What are you carrying? Be clearer." Karen said while adjusting her glasses. "Are you out of your mind, Naruto?" Kiba shouted. "Shut up." Both, Kurama broke down, literally growling his words. "Thanks Kurama," Naruto said. "Knowledge is power. I understood this truth when I was a child and tried to find out all the secrets of this world, ninjutsu and genjutsu, taijutsu and fuinjutsu, senjutsu and kekkei genkai, irianinjutsu along with Hiden, kinjutsu and dojutsu, and much more. I strove to gain more and more knowledge by absorbing all the information available to me. I did not stop under any conditions, rising higher and higher." "And how much have you achieved?" Kagaya asked, looking into the Uzumaki's eyes. "I'm on a different level, Kagaya-chan. If he could stop even you." As soon as the Uzumaki finished speaking, he looked around to capture the faces of the crowd in his mind. "I'll tell you everything now. And after hearing and seeing, you can call me a monster, or come up with something new, I will not pay attention. I'm too used to it. Ever since childhood. Now I'll show you everything," Naruto said and called on a huge scroll, taking out some kind of sphere from it. "This is the sphere of memory," he answered the surprised looks from the side, "so it will be easier for you to believe me. Let's start from the very beginning. In the era of the Otsutsuki clan, and inside the huge sphere that hovered above the ground, the image began to bend, showing stones on which hieroglyphs were carved and various paintings were shown. In those days, there was an endless war between people. It was not known what caused it. Some believe that because of the territories, others that because of the resources, and some believe that because of the desire to kill. He pointed to the rock carving where people fought. But they also worshipped an ancient deity, the tree god Shinju. He pointed to the image, where people bowed to some tree, on top of which there was an unusual eye. It was painted red, 6 circles departed from the pupil, on each of which there were 3 volumes. Who knows what kind of god the Shinju was? Peace, justice, war, harvest, but this does not change the essence. He had unthinkable strength and power, therefore he was God, recognized by all. In the affairs of the world, regarding wars, he did not interfere until they affected him, and this just happened. Once every 100 years, the Shinju created a fetus. Forbidden fruit that would make a god out of a man. Naruto pointed to a rock painting where a fruit appeared from under the roots, from which people left. But, as I said, the fruit was forbidden, which meant that no one was ever supposed to eat it. However, such a brave, or rather brave, appeared. It was Otsutsuki Princess Kagaya, matriarch of the Otsutsuki clan, now pointing to a drawing showing a long-haired woman with horns picking up a fruit and how the tree was alarmed. Why did she do it? Kushina asked her question to her son, to which Naruto turned, looked directly into the eyes of the goddess and, smiling, answered his mother. In order to end the wars and strengthen power in the clan that migrated from another world for his hime, Uzumaki turned his gaze to the rock art that the sphere showed. She was not afraid of the Shinju and ate the forbidden fruit, becoming the first owner of the chakra. With her power, she really stopped wars, put an end to turbulent times. Goddess Rabbit, she was named so by people out of respect and love for her, and after that she received the blessings of people and gave birth to twins. Without the participation of a man, she believed that a mere mortal was unworthy to touch her, and the blonde showed images. At the edge of the bed, surrounded by white sheets, lay two babies, twins. They were born just a couple of days ago. The main difference between these babies and other children was a pair of horn-like projections on their foreheads and eyes. One had dark purple whites of the eyes with circles like ripples in the water. These eyes were called the Rinnegan. The second has white eyes without pupils. Byakugan. These are Hagoromo Otsutsuki and Hamura Otsutsuki, the sons of Kagaya Otsutsuki. But how could she do it without the participation of a man? Tsunade asked Naruto in surprise and looked towards the goddess. I thought about it a lot too. In Kagaya-chan, the egg, the fetal genome, worked like two spermatozoa, a zygote was obtained and divided, like in identical twins. Immaculate conception. Finished Orochimaru. Exactly, in the past, in the legends and myths of many peoples, women could conceive without sexual contact, and they thought it was a divine phenomenon. But we digress, not wanting to continue the conversation on this topic, Uzumaki continued what he had begun. But after she gave birth to her two sons, she became a prisoner of her own power. The god tree's desire filled her mind, and she continued to desire only one thing, the return of the chakra. This wish turned her into a Jubi monster and caused her to attack her own children, and after she was sealed away, Kagaya left behind Black Zetsu, her will to pave the way for her rebirth. Really, Kagaya? Really? The rabbit goddess uttered, having lost her head and lowered her head a little. Her children became the ones who changed the whole world for the better in order to atone for the mother's sin and stop the Ten-Tails. Hagoromo, along with his brother, created an incredible sealing technique using Yin chakra and Yang chakra. Hagoromo was chosen as the vessel, whose body was suitable for such a monstrous chakra. With new strength, he chose a different path in reconciliation of people, which was completely different from the path of his mother. Kagaya intimidated and frightened people with her power, and Hagoromo himself gave them chakra and taught them ninsha, which in the future became ninjutsu. Hagoromo had two sons, the eldest and the youngest, Indra and Ashura. Indra is a genius from birth, a cold loner. Ashura is a person who has become strong through years of training and has the qualities of a leader. They possess the divided powers of their father. Yin chakra gave the eldest son the Sharingan, a dojutsu that was second in strength after the Rinnegan. Yang chakra gave the younger his father's huge supply of chakra and his will. Also, due to the danger of the Ten-Tails' new terror, Hagoromo divided his chakra into 9 parts, and with the help of Chibaku Tensei, he sealed his body in the Geto Mazo, creating the moon. Did I forget anything, Hagoromo-san? No. Now let us return to his sons, or rather to the decision that gave birth to this world. When Hagoromo died, he chose between Ashura and Indra as his heir. And he chose Ashura. Why did Hagoromo-san choose Ashura and the wrong Indra? The Mizukage asked a reasonable question, wondering about this choice. Because of their worldview. Indra believed that only force could change the world, or, otherwise, war. And Ashura believed that love and friendship could change the world. But the right choice turned out to be the other side of the coin. Indra was furious with this decision of his deceased father and went to war against Ashura. As a result of this war, both brothers created their own clans, which also fought in the name of their founders, beginning the era of warring clans. These two clans, they did not like each other, and as they say, the will of the leader is the will of the people. But now it's not about that, but about the fate of the brothers. Or rather, about their future, in their next lives. In what sense? Tsunade didn't understand. The fact that Ashura and Indra, like their father, and their ancestors were far from ordinary shinobi or even mortals, otherwise their souls are immortal and were reborn in certain eras. With these words, the space inside the sphere became bright, only two people were standing in it. Both were the same height and both wore a white haori with 6 tomos at the collar, but they were completely different in appearance. One was a short-haired brown-haired man with a white bandana on his forehead, his eyes were narrow, and his pupils were like thin dots. The second was a long-haired brunette with curls of hair hanging down from his forehead, black shadows around his eyes, and the eyes themselves were unusual. The sclera of the eyes were scarlet, like blood, and the pupils were black, and 3 tomo departed from them. Is this Ashura and Indra? Kushina guessed who these people were, to which Naruto nodded. Then, near the silhouettes of Ashura and Indra, 2 more appeared, a long-haired brown-haired man with tan skin, dressed in red, slightly shabby armor, and on his forehead was the same black bandana with a leaf protector as Naruto, and a pale-skinned man with long unruly hair that was black as night. He was wearing the same costume as Naruto is now, only he had a fan symbol on his back, and in his hand he held a gunbai, from which a cable connected to a belt extended. These are their first reincarnations, Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha. Great people, brave in heart and indestructible in will, that's what can be said about them. They became those who changed the world for the better and ended the era of warring clans. They experienced a lot in those days, leaving their mark on them. They wanted any future shinobi to live to old age, not die as a child in this war. Am I right, Hashirama-san? Yes, Naruto-kun. Madara and Hashirama, after becoming clan leaders, united into an organization that would become the village where I was born and lived, Konoha. Over time, more and more clans began to join them, which later created a village and entered into an agreement with the feudal lord of the Land of Fire, creating the one country, one village system, according to which we had 5 great nations: Hidden Sand, whose leader was the Kazekage, the Hidden Cloud, whose leader was the Reikage, the Hidden Mist, who was led by the Mizukage, the Hidden Stone, led by the Tsuchikage, and Konoha, led by the Hokage. What happened next was difficult. Then, near the silhouettes of the leaders of the Uchiha and Senju clans, 2 more appeared. One was Naruto, and the other was a brunette with unruly neck-length hair in a buzz cut, dressed in a short-sleeved turtleneck shirt, black shorts tied with purple rope, and black sandals. A black katana was attached to a cable at the waist. So you... Minato started, but Naruto cut him off. Yes, I am the second reincarnation of Ashura, to my regret, Dad. And this is Uchiha Sasuke, the reincarnation of Indra. To your regret? Rikudo repeated the blonde's words. But why? I never considered you to be my relative, far and even more so close. So tell me, Hagoromo-san. I remember you told me about reincarnation, probably the same for Sasuke, and now I have a question. What do you want to know? Reincarnation is the physical process of moving a soul into another body after death. Or in another way, reincarnation is the reincarnation of the soul. If Hashirama and I are Ashura Reigns and Madara and Sasuke are Indra Reigns. If this is the reincarnation of the soul of Indra and Ashura, then Hashirama and Madara would be impossible to resurrect in the war, because their souls are in me and Sasuke. If this is the reincarnation of the chakra, then why, at the first meeting between Madara and me, he did not recognize the friend's chakra that was in me, but after a while he felt Senju's chakra for kilometers. If, nevertheless, this is the reincarnation of the soul, then the question arises, who were their souls before the reincarnation into Indra and Ashura? Uzumaki's questions puzzled the sage and therefore he was in no hurry to answer. The chakra of Indra and Ashura initially gives the descendant of their aspirations, but they have their own soul, so they can change their fate. The chakra, given from birth, remains until death and even after it, then it is already produced by the cells of the body. Part 4. The chakra of Indra and Ashura initially gives the descendant of their aspirations, but they have their own soul, so they can change their fate. The chakra, given from birth, remains until death and even after it, but then it is already produced by the cells of the body. As I thought. Naruto. Why did you tell us the history of the world? I heard the displeased voice of the reincarnation of Indra in the side. It has long since become simply the past. That's right, Sasuke, I'm not arguing. But if you want to know your future, know your past, Naruto said calmly. Why did I tell you this? Said the blonde, all for this. Summoning technique, Naruto hit the ground with his palm, thereby summoning a huge scroll and opening it in front of a crowd of shinobi, and the scroll depicted the family tree of all Ikizoku on earth, Uchiha clan, Hyuga clan, Nara clan, Akimichi clan, Yamanaka clan, Clan Aburame, Inazuka clan, Sarutobi clan, Hatake clan, Kurama clan, Kahaku clan, Shimura clan, Kitoin clan, Yuki clan, Kagaya clan, Hozuki clan, Kurasuki clan, Yatsuki clan, Uzumaki clan, Wasabi clan, Wagarashi clan, Fuma clan, Shin clan, Kamizuru clan, Yugo clan, Hagoromo clan, Ryudoin clan, Kobasaki clan, Tsuchigumo clan, Yoda clan and many more. What do you see on this scroll as heirs of your clans? Naruto asked the crowd of shinobi, standing in front of a huge scroll. The genealogical tree of all clans from the founder Haim of the Otsutsuki clan. What else should we see here? Tobirama somehow incredulously answered, to which all the shinobi nodded, confirming that such an answer also came to their minds. That's a good point, Naidame Hokage. Genealogical. Naruto clapped. Kakashi-sensei, who did we fight on the bridge in the land of waves in the past? The student turned to his teacher. Momochi Zabuza of the Seven Swordsmen of Kirigakure and his apprentice, Hatake replied with a heavy sigh, guessing what Naruto was leading to. That's right, sensei. But I'm not interested in a swordsman, much more important is his student Haku Yuki, the last of his clan. And what was the Yuki clan in the land of water, the Godame Mizukage, famous for? The blonde asked Mei Terumi. Kekiai Genkai Hayatan, the owner of 2 enhanced genomes, answered the blonde's question without hesitation. Right. The Jinchuriki said. Once upon a time, I fought another member of a clan that had already disappeared, namely Kimimaro Kagaya. Maybe some of you personally knew him. He possessed Shikatsumiyaku, the Kekiai Genkai of the Kagaya clan. The gene allows the wearer to manipulate the structure of his skeleton. What are you doing this for? Suigetsu yelled, interrupting Naruto as usual. I hope there are no more stupid people like him. The Uzumaki asked rhetorically. You probably already guessed what I'm getting at. If not, then I'll explain. I have collected Kekiai Genkai all my life, Hayatan Haku Yuki from Kirigakure, Shikatsumiyaku Kimimaro Kagaya from Kirigakure, Shoten Kunoichi Guren, Mokutan Hashirama Senju, Meitun, Kotan, Rantun and Jintun are all Hiriko genomes from Konohagakure, Daidaras Bakutun from Iwagakure, Garas Jiten, Shikuden Kunoichi of Pakura from Suna. I only missed Yotan and Futun Mizukage and Jintun Tsuchikage and finally, the Hyuga clan's Dojitsu, Byakugan. Oh you bastard, what are you going to do with this? Tobirama couldn't resist. At first, Uzumaki reminded him of his older brother, but now he saw a completely different person in front of him, and Senju did not like it, and Naruto did not even pay attention and only grinned. Why are you doing this, Naruto? Hugging his wife, Minato asked his son with difficulty, and Kushina, watching her son, blamed herself for not knowing him and what was inside his soul. Who, if not me? Naruto answered his father's question simply and with a smile. Let's start. With the cloning technique, Uzumaki created a clone so that he transplanted his right eye, and he lay down on the ground. Without thinking twice, the clone carefully tore out his right eye and inserted the Byakugan in place of the removed one, bandaging his head with a bandage so that the light did not enter his eyes. After the original dispelled it. Have you heard the prophecy about the boy? Uzumaki asked everyone as he sat up. Are you talking about Gamamaru's prophecy? Asked the sage who was watching the Jinchuriki. Yes. A boy with blue eyes will be born, who will frolic among the tailed ones. That's right, my eyes were blue from birth until today, and I became the Jinchuriki of all the tailed beasts. He pointed to Gudadama that hovered behind his back. This prophecy of Gamamaru came true, but there is another. Which? Asked the sage Otsutsuki. What was the prophecy that Hermit Gamamaru predicted to Jiraiya-sensei, Tsunade-sama? Naruto turned to the Hokage. He will train the one who destroys or brings peace to this land, Senju answered with difficulty. Exactly. As we know, the sensei had 5 students, Uzumaki Nagato and Namikaze Minato, Yahiko and Konan are all listed in the next world, the last one remains, the blonde pointed at himself, and this hermit's prophecy came true, he said with sarcasm or irony blonde. Have you ever thought about our life, the life of a shinobi? Shinobi lives against their will and is used as a tool, a weapon that will destroy everything that is contrary to the ideology of the village and the ruler of the country. Stepping over mountains of corpses, we manage to live a simple life, create families, raise children, rejoice with friends, like ordinary people. That's right, after the mission we become ordinary people, not burdened with the grave consequences of the assignment. No, I'm not saying that we are all soulless killing machines, we all have feelings, but over time, all the bad things are forgotten, and remorse goes away, and we begin to assure ourselves that everything we do for the future generation, which we will protect at the cost of our lives. It's the will of fire, Naruto. Seeing the hopeless faces of the shinobi, Minato spoke to the words of his son, to which Hiruzen and Tsunade nodded. The will of fire, repeated Naruto, don't make me laugh, do you really believe in this nonsense, father? Think for a second, what kind of future are we leaving for our children? A future built on the bodies of our enemies? Akatsuki, for example, are all sworn enemies of Konoha and the shinobi world. And all because their aspirations were at odds with the general concepts of the whole world. They were accused of wanting to destroy the shinobi world, but they only wanted peace, a world that rejected them when they were children. They made monsters out of them, and when they had their own way, they were thrown away. I don't understand you, Naruto, Tsunade said. All our enemies killed for fun, they tried to kill you and all of us. You won't understand, Tsunade-sama. You see everything from the same angle, think so narrowly. Sasuke, you, like no one else, will understand me, your brother was betrayed by the village and killed all your clan members. Sitting blindfolded in Turkish, Naruto spoke slowly. It was only the council and the Hokage's fault, only them, the village had nothing to do with it. Well, of course, of course. Then tell me why the Uchiha case has not been declassified. Why does everyone still hate Itachi? And you will be accepted after the war only because you subsequently took our side in the battle with Madara. I'll answer you, Sasuke, it's because daimyos, counselors, Konoha elders and even the Hokage will be at risk. They are afraid they might lose everything if the truth is revealed. And the villagers live as if nothing had happened, they do not know that their life is supported by the blood of other people, my father and mother, who heroically died for the good of the village, sealing the nine-tailed into their newborn son, and for their feet, our advisors and Hokage, and even the heads of the clans, the disciple of his father and his own godfather hide the truth about the parents of the Jinchuriki, as if he was a rootless dog. Naruto, releasing chakra, yelled at everyone in front of him. I thought a lot about the shinobi world and my place in it. You know, I met many people and shinobi, although most of them tried to kill me, their aspirations and feelings reached me. So it was with Itachi, Pain, Kisame and Madara. Pain fought for his justice, his only fault was that he was born in the wrong place at the wrong time. He experienced the pain of loss in childhood, later the loss of his best friend, and this left an imprint in his soul. He knew the pain, and she broke him. Pain hated Konoha and the whole world, but his hatred was not groundless, the shinobi world made him that way. And no matter how stupid it may sound, the same world condemned and hated him. He said that by nature people are not able to reach mutual understanding. At that moment, all I felt for him was only hatred. I wished him dead, for Jiraiya-sensei. But, when I came face to face with him, there was only pain in his eyes. He created Akatsuki to break the chains of hatred that enveloped the entire world. This world is full of things that we cannot change. As long as there is light in this world, there will be darkness. As long as there are winners, there will be losers. The selfish desire for peace incites wars, and hatred is incited by love. Later, I tried to break this curse and find real peace. But, looking at Sasuke, he finished his sentence with a sad smile. I was wrong, there is no world without pain, as long as we live in this damned world, this is impossible. There will be losers. The selfish desire for peace incites wars, and hatred is incited by love. Later, I tried to break this curse and find real peace. But, looking at Sasuke, he finished his sentence with a sad smile. I was wrong, there is no world without pain, as long as we live in this damned world, this is impossible. There will be losers. The selfish desire for peace incites wars, and hatred is incited by love. Later, I tried to break this curse and find real peace. But, looking at Sasuke, he finished his sentence with a sad smile. I was wrong, there is no world without pain, as long as we live in this damned world, this is impossible. Everyone shuddered at his words. The tone in which these words were spoken was trembling. It was filled with great pain. Minato comforted Kushina, who couldn't hold back her tears. Naruto, what are you wearing? When did you become like this? You don't sound like the Naruto we knew. Sasuke called out. The Uchiha was calm and tried to influence his friend with words. But the rest did not know what to do. And you still believe what you say, Naruto? Answer me. Sasuke, didn't you want to kill me earlier because I ripped out your precious eye? Uchiha, what are you talking about? When did you get so sentimental? You don't sound like the Sasuke I knew. Are you kidding me, Uzumaki? A little. Freeing his lungs from the heavy cold air, Naruto spoke. Uchiha, you don't understand, just like before, you don't see the whole picture. Madara, the man who lived long before you and I were born, experienced no less pain than Nagato. Having reached a certain level of power, he began to look at the world differently, seeing the pain and suffering of those around him. It dawned on him that the world would not change on its own, which is why he wanted to plunge humanity into genjutsu and become a savior and martyr. But then, if this world doesn't change, what are you going to do? The rabbit goddess asked as she watched the Uzumaki. Ah, are you interested, Kagaya-chan? The Uzumaki asked with a sly smile. Yes, Naruto-kun, Kagaya asked with the same intonation as the blonde. To begin with, I'll finish what I started, that's my goal, and then, turning his head towards the goddess, Naruto added, I'll achieve you, no matter what it costs me, because you were born into this world only for me. After saying something in Kagaya's heart, something pinched that his breathing quickened and his heart began to beat furiously in his chest. What? Kagaya exclaimed. The same reaction was heard from the other side of the barrier after the blonde said, to which Naruto smiled, rejoicing at the effect created. Naruto, your plans are related to the fact that you have collected genomes. And your words earlier, and now, as if you underestimate the enemy that sits in front of you, and the barrier is weakening every hour. What then? When he's gone, Sasuke reminded the blonde of important information. What are you going to do? You want to know how I will use the genomes, but I don't mind telling you. Kagaya-chan, as the progenitor of all shinobi, had the original genome, namely the Rinne Sharingan and the Byakugan. She could learn to release absolutely any element of Kekkei Genkai, master the beginnings of the chakra, yin and yang, and could also mix them. Hagoromo inherited a weaker version of the Rinne Sharingan, i.e. his Rinnegan with 6 paths, Gakido, Gedo, Jigakudo, Ninjendo, Tendo, Chikashodo and Shirato. And Hamura got a Byakugan, but not an easy one. Indra inherited the Sharingan, this is the release of yin, spiritual energy, and Ashura inherited respectively, yang, the physical energy of a person. From generation to generation, shinobi received less and less from their progenitor Kagaya, and I realized that before everything disappeared from the face of the earth, I should start collecting the genomes that scattered time, and combine them in myself, thereby becoming on a par with Kagaya-chan. And at the moment I am the Jinchuriki of all the tailed beasts from Shikaku to Kurama, and I have a Kekkei Genkai of all the elements from Hayaton to Jintan, and I own the beginnings of the chakra, yin and yang, as well as the genomes of Shikatsumiyaku and Tojibari. You question, what is left? Rinne Sharingan and Byakugan, Naruto-kun, Orochimaru said a little amazed, and the others hardly accepted the information they heard and seriously wondered if this was a dream. That's right, the Rinne Sharingan. And in order to awaken it, you need to combine all the parts together, that is, all the techniques of this dojutsu. These are Gakido, Gedo, Jigakudo, Ninjendo, Tendo, Chikashodo and Shirato, Rinne techniques, and Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, Susanoo, Kodo Amatsukami and Kamui, Sharingan techniques. And how are you going to do it, Naruto-kun? How is this even possible? Hashirama asked dumbfounded. When I took Sasuke's eye, Naruto said, covering the right side of his face with his hand, his Rinnegan already had Gakido, Gedo, Jigakudo, Ninjendo, Tendo, Chikashodo, Shirato and Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi and Susanoo techniques. The only thing missing is Kodo Amatsukami and Kamui. When a person in the Uchiha clan awakens the Mangekyo Sharingan, their eye techniques are standard, such as Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi and Susanoo or Kodo Amatsukami, Tsukuyomi and Susanoo or Kamui, Tsukuyomi and Susanoo. Only the first technique changes, but what sequence of techniques a particular person of the clan who awakened the Mangekyo will receive, only genes can tell, because everything is written in them. Naruto, you learned Indra's heritage without owning the Sharingan, you can be proud of it, the sage praised, but where will you get Koto Amatsukami and Kamui? I just need the code of their carriers. After these words, everyone who knew about Kamui, Kakashi and Obito looked at them. Naruto, when did you make it? Standing next to a friend who was in a deplorable state, Hataki asked the student. There was a war, sensei, no one pays attention to the little things. Only Koto Amatsukami remained. Koto Amatsukami is Shisui Uchiha's technique, if my memory serves me right, the third Hokage said, surprising everyone. But Naruto, he died a long time ago. That's right, Danzo had Shisui's eye, and he died, so your plans are over, that Tsuchiki's voice was heard in the crowd. Yes Naruto, Danzo used a self-destruct technique. Kakashi added, and the Uzumaki only sighed heavily at their statements. Yes, you are both right. One of Shisui's eyes is gone forever, but don't forget the other. But he, too, disappeared with Shisui's body, the third Hokage said in a monotone. No, Hokage-sama, Shisui personally gave the eye to his friend Itachi Uchiha to protect the clan, and the latter gave it to me. Naruto regretted only one thing, he could not see the faces of those present because of the bandage. But his imagination painted a simply amazing picture. Now the Choke Tomo Rinnegan is being reborn into the Rinne Sharingan, and I can feel it. The blonde said, clenching his fists from the pain in his eyes. And now to the conclusion. Kagaya-chan, do you want to know what happened to your Otsutsuki clan while you were gone? Yes. Hamura, who became the next leader of the Otsutsuki clan after you, went with his remnants to the moon in order to keep the seal on the Geto statue. While Hagoromo stayed on Earth for the sake of spreading chakra among humanity. The Otsutsuki clan divided into three branches, the main family and the sub-family, and those who remained on Earth, the main and sub-families, who lived on the moon for millennia. Hamura's heirs fought among themselves until the clan self-destructed in an internecine war. I sent the last direct descendant of Hamura and the only survivor to the forefathers. Why did you kill him, Naruto-kun? Hinata, who was listening carefully and worried about the blonde because of his changes, asked the blonde in shock. I just fulfilled his request, if I may say so. What were you doing there, Naruto? And in general, how do you manage everywhere? You are my Jinchuriki, but it turns out I don't know anything about you, Kurama asked with a touch of resentment, but not trying not to show it. I was looking for hand seals, information, old scrolls that mentioned the history of the Otsutsuki clan, and most importantly, I was looking for information about the awakening of the eyes of the reincarnation of Hamura Otsutsuki. Hamura didn't have the eyes of reincarnation, the rabbit goddess said, remembering the last meeting before the sealing. Naruto, my brother didn't have the eyes of reincarnation, he had the Byakugan, the sage also contributed. You are wrong. Hamura awakened a new dojutsu, which he himself named. The Tenseigan is the highest form of the Byakugan. I read his manuscripts. The words that the blonde uttered sounded like thunder from a clear sky. Especially for the Hyuga clan and the representatives of the Otsutsuki. Naruto-kun, what is the Byakugan that evolves like the Sharingan? Upon hearing this news, Hayashi calmed down due to the loss of the eye that Naruto had taken. Uzumaki's words will go down in clan history if true. To which the blonde began to untie the bandage on his head slowly but surely. Hamura's heirs, whether on Earth or on the moon, have not been able to awaken the Tenseigan due to the division of the genome code. For example, Uchiha without Senju will not be able to awaken the Rinnegan, just like Hyuga without Otsutsuki will not be able to awaken the Tenseigan and vice versa. After finishing his speech, Naruto opened his eyes. At first the blonde was not comfortable. Due to getting used to the dojutsu, everything was swimming before his eyes, but this effect disappeared after a few seconds, and Uzumaki saw frozen faces in surprise, and there was something to be surprised at. Naruto's right eye shone with indigo color from the black pupil. Thousands of small lightnings emanated, mesmerizing the beholder, the true Tenseigan, and Uzumaki's left eye burned blood red with a black pupil, and from the pupil there were rings with 3 tomo on each ring. There were 9 in total, Rinne Sharingan. Ah yeah, Naruto began to fold the hand seals and only Tsunade, Sakura and Shizune understood what he was going to do, Byakugo, but Jutsu Kai, Naruto removed the henge that held back the appearance for one length of time. And now Naruto, in his original form, appeared before everyone half-naked in torn trousers that had seen the war and now looked more like shorts. A tall and majestic young man with waist-length golden hair like a dragon king's, and a beautiful face with 3 stripes on each cheek and different eyes, one dark red like blood and the other dark blue. They clearly did not look like human and shone with a mysterious glow that made all other people who were here fade. And on the forehead grew two symmetrical horns, like a crown. He has a perfect, golden proportioned body, radiating majesty, and his very soul shone with gold. Tattoos appeared all over the body, like the Dragon King, Naruto's father, but they were red, thus completing the holistic image of Naruto. Bahamut is truly a god with the blood of a dragon. He clapped his hands and symbols of the Fuin spread across the ground and from them a golden throne emerged to the surface. And Naruto himself began to become covered with golden dust that came from the throne, and in a moment he was completely covered with golden armor, and golden earrings similar to the disk of the sun appeared on his ears. As if telling everyone that there was only one luminary in heaven, just as there was one ruler on earth, and the rest were miserable rabble. After Naruto sat down in his rightful place, and under his feet were the skins of the tiger and the lion. After such a performance, everyone went into the astral plane and no one could even say a word, and the rest even forgot how to breathe. Minato held on as best he could, he was pretty damn surprised. Be grateful to all your gods for beholding my person, for I have decided to honor you with my presence. Behold the Lord of everything, from heaven to earth, God with dragon blood, Naruto Bahamut, the son of the Dragon King. If someone henceforth does not choose his words when addressing me, or looks at me with a low and dirty look, then this will be enough for this person to turn into a brat in my eyes, which I will immediately sentence to death. Pitiful smirks, know your place. Part 5. The horror of the shinobi world, the legacy of the black dragon of the apocalypse, Naruto Bahamut, looked at the united army of shinobi, sitting on a golden throne, with an icy look around everyone, causing some too impressionable to experience animal fear, causing trembling in the whole body. He stared silently at no one and everyone at the same time until a voice from the crowd caught his attention. How did you take this form? With notes of anger in his voice, looking directly into Naruto's eyes, Tobirama asked his question. Who are you? But Naruto simply ignored him, which caused an outburst of rage from the Senju. Didn't you hear what I said? I want to know who you are. Brother, calm down. Hashirama exclaimed, trying to temper his brother's ardor. It didn't work out well. You dare to ask me such questions, brat? Naruto said irritably without looking away. You tell me what to do. A sudden strong gust of wind made everyone alert. I honored all of you with my presence, and you speak to me in such a tone. Still don't understand who I am. Spawn. Such ignorance is disgusting. The only thing you deserve is death. Naruto extended his hand towards the Senju. Your murder will serve as entertainment for me, insignificant. In the palm of Naruto appeared one ball, Gudadama, which hovered in the air. I know this technique. Thought I might be surprised. This sphere is based on Onmyoton and all the elements. And I am disappointed, Tobirama said with a contemptuous grin. I'm glad you know that in a few seconds it will take your life for the second time. The black sphere created by Naruto turned into the staff of Shikujo Himura Otsutsuki, which greatly surprised the goddess and the sage along with the Kage, who could not help but notice that only what happened. Get out. The blonde sharply raised his staff, pointing it at Senju. The erupted stream hit Tobirama's artificial body, causing him to fly several meters away and turn into dust in a moment. Bahamut shifted his gaze to his older brother, expecting a hostile reaction from him, which was not forthcoming. Hashirama was silent. He has already lost everything. It was too late, too. That's not what I wanted, Jiraiya. Tsunade looked at Naruto and didn't see him. The memories preserved that sunny, always smiling boy who never gave up and constantly shouted at the whole of Konoha that he would definitely become Hokage. She was shaking, her body numb as instead of Naruto, she saw it. She couldn't believe, didn't want to believe that the world had turned him into this. This made the pain unbearable. Now in his eyes there was only the coldness from which he wanted to run. The voice and manner of speaking also changed. There is no that branded databale that everyone is used to. There is nothing more. Naruto, what have you become? Not afraid of his reaction and the worst outcome for herself, the fifth Hokage asked, tears glistening in the corners of her eyes. I am who I am. And he always was, you just didn't want to notice. Leaning back on the throne, he turned his gaze to the slug princess and after a second added, Grandma Tsunade. From the old and such a native appeal, his heart ached. A tear rolled down Tsunade's cheek that she didn't even notice. She smiled sadly as she accepted Naruto's change. She finally saw in his behavior echoes of the past. It was enough for her to believe that this was the real Uzumaki. Naruto, stop. You can still return everything. Kushina said in a sad voice, who was standing next to the depressed Minato, who blamed himself for what was happening to their son. Dad, Mom, I'm extremely grateful to you for being my parents, Naruto said sincerely and gently with a smile on his face, but I don't want to return anything. When the whole world turned its back on me and society saw only a monster in me, only one person recognized me and raised me as his son. Naruto slowly raised his head up to see the night starry sky. And I'm proud. I'm proud to be the son of the Dragon King. He stood up from his throne and, turning his back on the crowd, took a deep breath. Father, you are watching me, I know. You see what I have achieved. I kept my promise. I have achieved eternal glory, I have not dishonored you. Naruto shouted into the void. He fell to his knees, breathing heavily, tears of blood streaming down his face. He covered his face with his hands. He mourned the dead, mourned himself of the past. He forced himself to take the last step to cross the last boundary, to erase all of oneself, creating a new one. He had to free himself from all the promises I once made, from the ties that once bound myself to anyone. He has done everything, he can leave. Now he is finally free. POV Kagaya. Yeah. You are amazing Naruto, we both had a difficult past. He is strong. The only thing that distinguishes us in terms of strength is the amount of chakra, but this is not a hindrance for him. Something strange compensates for less chakra. Also, he's quite attractive, handsome, sexy. Kagaya, what are you thinking? Calm down, pull yourself together, you're a goddess, not a second-rate girl. But as soon as he turned to face me, all control collapsed. I had the strong impression that he could read my mind. His foxy smile only confirmed my suspicions. Damn. Damn. Kagaya, keep a straight face. You are a goddess. Be goddess to the end. Ah. Nothing comes out. How will I present it? End POV. Naruto-kun, you said your father is the Dragon King, who is he? Kagaya asked calmly, hiding her interest well. I haven't heard about dragons and haven't seen them, if I don't know, then no one here knows about it. Except for you, of course, Naruto-kun, the rabbit goddess asked the blonde with a gentle smile. Naruto wiped the tears from his face and slowly walked over to the other half of the barrier where Kagaya sat without chakra, she was still blocked, and then crouched in front of her. Otsutsuki was a little embarrassed. But Naruto didn't stop there and, grabbing her by the waist, pulled her towards him, causing Kagaya's even more embarrassment. What are you doing, Naru? But the blonde didn't let her finish with his kiss. All that the girl was capable of was mournfully lowing, panting. However, Kagaya quickly got over the slight shock and bit his lip tangibly. Am I doing something wrong? Bahamut softly touched her ear with his lips and sank a little lower, falling to the velvet skin on her neck. Are you still asking? With notes of indignation and ingratiating she said, looking away. We are not alone, the last trump card of the goddess was thrown. What are you talking about? Naruto chuckled softly into her neck, feeling it send goosebumps to her skin. He pulled Kagaya close to him, gently wrapping his arms around her waist, holding both of her hands behind her back and the back of her head with his other hand, gently turning her head and forcing her to look into her eyes. Father, I am ready to give everything for them. And how did I manage to keep my mouth shut all this time? In the lilac eyes of the goddess, discontent and irritation played, fueled by a slight excitement and anticipation. She herself fell to his lips, enticing him into her game. He wasn't about to give in to her. Their struggle for the initiative in the kiss was both passionate and desperate, and a little spiteful. She bit his tongue and lips as he tried to go deeper. Kagaya tried to force Naruto to play by her rules, but was clearly losing ground. Impudent, she muttered when they finally pulled away from each other. Naruto chuckled and pressed his lips to hers again. This kiss was very different from the previous one in that it was more passionate, more hot. Kagaya did not resist, on the contrary, she completely went into the process, trying to prove that she was not as hopeless in this regard as he thinks. Naruto was extremely surprised that she returned the kiss. In the end, Kagaya was already lying on the warm skin of the tiger that had been brought here with the help of the Fuin, and Naruto was looming over her, who was admiring her light lilac eyes. Very well. Where did you learn from? Books. Looking into his multicolored eyes, which enchanted, she answered, which made him grin. You know, he ran the tip of his tongue along her tender neck, causing her to bite her lip in restraint and moan unconsciously. When I kissed you for the first time, my first thought was very vulgar. Pervert, she didn't want to admit, but the moment she spoke out loud was nothing more than her hidden desire. Wasting no time, the blonde gently ran his mana-soaked hands over her kimono-covered chest. Naruto tried to take his time, stretching out the pleasure, watching with a smile as he wasn't the only one enjoying it. Moving from gentle strokes to rough and assertive movements, from which her breathing noticeably quickened. They are looking at us, she whispered, but her voice betrayed her desire. Then why don't you tell me to stop? Naruto asked with a sly smile. I want you, Kagaya, he whispered to her, causing her to wince visibly. If you want me to stop, just say it. She's still that pervert after all. A thought flashed through his mind as he looked at Kagaya's excited face. The blonde felt a very good, appetizing and flawless figure of the girl, which was hidden by the kimono. You moaned so erotically, Kagaya-chan. No, not true. With a victorious smirk, the blonde gradually began to take on a more increasing pace, gently squeezing the goddess's nipples, swollen with excitement when she bit her lower lip, barely holding back an exciting scream. She was embarrassed, involuntarily trying to free herself from his embrace. He caught this subtle movement on her part and, lifting her head and chin, Naruto kissed her again. His kisses were deep, greedy, he literally broke into her mouth, not even letting her breathe. Otsutsuki felt like she was the prey of this wild beast. The girl wanted to scream, break free and run away as far as possible, but with each of his touches to her body, through insatiability and thirst, she plunged into these feelings more and more. Kagaya tugged at his long golden hair. Emotions that were seething in Naruto overwhelmed her too, she was already at the peak of bliss, on the verge of ecstasy. Waves of male-scented pleasure washed over her head. Finally, throwing her head back, a loud passionate cry escaped from her lips, her body trembled with surging feelings, and her hands slid with force along the blonde's back, leaving scratches. Wait. Give me a break, Otsutsuki said with difficulty. Leaving the girl's breasts alone, Naruto pulled his hand out of the kimono and brought a couple of strands of her lush, silky white hair to his face to smell her scent, admiring her lilac eyes, feeling her breath noticeably quicken. The scent of your hair. It's hard to resist. Naruto. Trying not to look him in the eyes, Kagaya wanted to remind him that they were not alone, but the blonde didn't let her do that. To hell with these rules of love, stupid truths, it is important that we are together and smile sincerely. Kagaya, when I first saw you in the vision that my father showed me, I fell in love with you like a boy, Naruto said in between kisses. And I knew that you would belong only to me. Silence was his answer, so he continued. My love is a blazing, burning fire. Warm and blue flames burst out of Naruto's nostrils. I will turn your tears into rose petals, my goddess. After Naruto's words, Kagaya became embarrassed and blushed, finally paying due attention to the position in which they were lying in front of everyone, to which the blonde only smiled. I'll be the one to hug you. I'll be the one to receive you. We are two opposites that attract, following established laws, he whispered with hot breath in her ear. No, you won't be alone anymore, my Heim. When darkness falls, I will light the stars in heaven for you, Naruto said, continuing to cover the delicate skin on the girl's neck with kisses, bringing pleasure not only to himself. I'll be the one to find you at the end of the world. The one who will lead you. Kagaya, this world doesn't make sense without you. Naruto lifted the girl up around her waist and into a sitting position, forcing her to wrap her arms around his neck and her legs clasped behind his back, pressing her body against his. Everything matches, Kagaya. A man was looking for a woman on top of the world and found her. The blushing kunoichi were watching the whole scene the blonde made. Some of them even envied the goddess. And the surprised shinobi, they prudently kept quiet with a dumbfounded look and felt superfluous, and the bijou just diligently pretended that this was in the order of things, but the expression on their faces indicated otherwise. Naruto, Databane. Kushina blushed like never before. Her son definitely lost his shame if he does such a thing. Well, stop it. Inside she was glad for her son that he found his happiness, but, not in front of everyone. Do you still want to know about my father, Kaguya? Yes, if it's not difficult. Anything for you, my Haim. Crouching next to Otsutsuki, he extended his hand towards the orb he used earlier and concentrated in it to convey his memories. An image of Acnologia in human form appeared in the sphere. He looked like an ordinary man with dark skin, rather muscular. He had long dark blue hair. His eyes were lined with black eyeliner, all over the body, including the face, had the same patterns as Naruto, but in blue. He wore a long dark cloak with a high collar, over which he wore a necklace made from the teeth of dragons. Acnologia was sitting in a dark alley on the ground, and in front of him stood a small Naruto in a white t-shirt with the symbol of the Uzumaki clan, a whirlpool, and in torn orange shorts. His body and face were covered with patterns like Acnologia's, but red, and small horns grew on his forehead which the Dragon King genuinely wondered about. Is that him, Naruto? Minato asked softly as he watched the images in the sphere carefully. Yes. What is he doing, Naru? The goddess asked. We'll talk about that later. First I'll tell you who he is. Ah. I forgot to tell you something very important. Father is from another world. From another world? Everyone present shouted at the same time, staring at Naruto in surprise, which slightly amused him, but nothing more. But Kaguya was not surprised, because she knew about other worlds, for example, the worlds of the Rinne Sharingan. And all the memories that appear inside the sphere are the memories of the father and mine. Well, so that all questions immediately disappear, I will show you especially, so to speak, important points. Of course, from the words of Naruto it sounded very strange and implausible, but in their eyes he understood that they believed him. The world of dragons, demons and magicians. Yes. This world is different from our world in many ways. Naruto closed his eyes, wondering what he should talk about first, and started talking after minutes. Firstly, where he came from, there is no chakra. Is it true? Some particularly impressionable friends of the blonde and ordinary shinobi shouted out with wide eyes in surprise. Don't blame them, even the Kage didn't expect to hear that. Yes, there is no chakra in that world. And I ask you not to interrupt me in the future. It will not be difficult for me to turn each of you into a handful of ashes. Again exhaling a small cloud of blue flame, Naruto said, understand? The crowd of shinobi nodded vigorously. Thanks for understanding. Instead of chakra, some people, they are called magicians, have mana. In spells, they call their techniques that way, they use mana, but shinobi use chakra. After these words, Naruto extended his hand and two flames lit up in his palm, one blue, the other yellow, and then mixed. The goddess and the sage, along with some of the censors and bijou, were amazed. As those who understand what chakras are and its structure, they saw the differences between it and mana, and this could not but surprise. It looks like a chakra, but here is its component. Chakra uses the spirit and the body, and your mana uses the energy of nature and even the cosmos, mixing it in the body, the sage of the six paths said, to which Naruto chuckled. This only confirmed that Hagoromo truly deserved to be the sage of the shinobi world with such intelligence and the ability to analyze something completely new. You're absolutely right, the blonde stopped releasing mana from his palm. Now let's move on to the demons. They are equal in strength to our bijou. An image of Deliora appeared in the sphere. Now it's the turn to be surprised by the tailed ones. True, not everyone. Kurama was too proud. Although, based on the knowledge of his strength, this pride was not unreasonable. And now to the conclusion. Naruto said and looked around at everyone. Dragons are ancient and powerful creatures with colossal power, who lived in the world before the era of demons and people. The first dragons could not fly, they did not have wings. They walked on all fours and could, of course, spit fire. Time passed and new generations of dragons appeared in the world, which gained wings, and from this they became even more dangerous. There were many types of dragons: ice, sea, fiery. I will not list all of them, and this is not required. It is worth saying that there is very little detailed information about dragons, everything is based on bits of knowledge that have come down to our time. So it's all very subjective. Regardless of the type, dragons were able to cast spells, more specifically, hypnosis, which helped them a lot. They were distinguished by a sharp mind, deceit and greed. They were very cunning. But, apparently, not enough, almost all of them have disappeared. What happened to them? Shinobi from the crowd exclaimed. My father has arrived. What's that supposed to mean, Naruto? Minato asked. Born more than 400 years ago, my father was one of the first disciples of the dragons, who took part in the Dragon Civil War, on the side of maintaining coexistence with humans. However, he ignored his comrades' persuasion and proceeded to kill all the dragons and other students, like himself, by bathing in their blood. He hoped to gain tremendous power in this way to kill the rest and rule the world. After constantly killing more than 1,000 dragons and using their blood to enhance his own abilities, the father himself turned into a dragon, and then proclaimed himself the Dragon King. This event will forever be preserved in the history of that world, better known as the Dragon King's Blood Festival. Everyone was horrified by the blonde's words. Is this the same person that was next to you? The same person you call father? Kushina exclaimed, pressing her hand to her lips in horror. Yes. Currently, the father has become a hermit, not wanting to have anything to do with people, despite the fact that he is one of them. According to the sages and kings, for him people are insects, and he ignores any of their attempts to enter into a conversation with him. However, his goals are unknown to anyone. He has everything to rule the world, but he does not try to do this. For many years, the father roamed the earth, known as the fearsome Dragon King, and was responsible for the death of entire countries. How did you meet him, Naruto? Sasuke asked while sitting on the ground and looking towards the blonde. Never mind. In this world, he is no more and never will be. Remember when you asked him what he was doing, Kaguya? Naruto turned to the goddess. Yes. The moment I showed you will mark the end of the rebirth ritual he performed. He watched my changes. That's why I can call myself a god with dragon's blood. Images and voices appeared in the sphere. This was the last conversation between Naruto and Acnologia before the latter left. Naruto. No one else in this world can compare with you now, because my blood flows in you now, Acnologia said, placing his hand on the blonde's shoulder. A body that surpasses all by mortal standards, with knowledge capable of reaching the truth of dragons. Am I the Dragon Prince now, Acnologia-sama? Naruto asked with a smile on his face. Yes, Naru, and you will be the cornerstone of heaven between the rising humanity and the fading gods. A being who embodies two forms of life, with the blood of those who ruled and the blood of those who will rule after. You will become a neutral party that is able to recognize their shortcomings. Naru, you will become so strong that even the gods will not be able to ignore your existence, remember that. Oh, I am flashed. Naruto exclaimed with a wide smile on his face and rushed to hug Acnologia. The boy did not want to let him go and return to the world of loneliness and contempt directed at him. Those thoughts filled his eyes with tears, and he hurried to erase them before Acnologia saw them. He did not want to show his weakness to him, so as not to see disappointment in his eyes, but the Dragon King only smiled. Until the end of time, this world will remain your garden, and therefore, I can guarantee you will never get bored of it, Naruto. So don't forget your promise and goodbye. Bye, father, I will not forget you, I will never forget. Almost breaking his voice, shouted little Naruto. Naruto sealed the orb as the necessary scene came to an end and rose from his seat to help Kaguya up. If there is at least one extra movement on your part, I will send it to the forefathers. Shinobi or Kage, I don't care, I warned you. After the blonde went to the stone that created the barrier. Part 6. If there is at least one extra movement on your part, I will send it to the forefathers. Shinobi or Kage, I don't care, I warned you. The blonde then moved towards the stone that was creating the barrier and broke it in half. The wall fell, freeing them both. Naruto, holding Otsutsuki's hands, walked towards his parents. Hello Ma, but before he could say hello, he received a resounding blow to the head from his mother, for which she had good reasons. But just as suddenly, he found himself in her strong arms. Naruto, what are you doing? Aren't you ashamed? Son, I missed you so much, I wanted to see and hug you, Uzumaki quickly spoke, abruptly changing topics, barely holding back tears, which Naruto gently wiped away with his hands and kissed Kushina on the forehead. Mom, I love you and am so grateful for everything you have done for me. After Naruto's words, Kushina calmed down a little, and her gaze caught on Kaguya, who didn't purposely cling to the blonde in embarrassment. Kushina looked into her son's eyes. You want? Yes, before you disappear. Minato. She shoved him with her elbow, the son wants to introduce us to his chosen one. Behave yourself, you understand? She said the last words with a threat in her voice, after the words of Kushina, Otsutsuki began to worry like a girl. These feelings were new to her. Yes dear. Kagaya was at a loss, not knowing what to say. Never in her life had she been introduced to anyone's parents. Don't worry, Kagaya. Kushina said in an encouraging tone. I can see how embarrassing you are. Naruto probably didn't tell you why you were coming here. Yes, and this is not the best moment for dating, but we do not have to choose, so okay. Naruto smiled apologetically. He just wanted to surprise him, but it looks like things didn't go a little differently than he expected. Nice to meet you. Kagaya greeted with a slight bow. And us too, Kagaya, replied the Uzumaki, who was not calmer than Kagaya herself. It's not every day that a son introduces you to a goddess, so she couldn't decide on a suffix. Can you tell a little about yourself? Fine. The conversation went quite well. If at first she was overcome by shyness and embarrassment, then towards the middle of the conversation, she began to feel quite comfortable, having found a common language with Kushina. Perhaps it was because of their firm and ardent nature that they quickly became friends. Both recalled different funny and not very stories about their lives. Naruto was talking to Minato at the time. Naruto, you are already an adult and choose your own path. I have no right to reproach you for your actions, these are your decisions and no one else. Great power has been given to you, so be careful. This is no less a big responsibility. And Naruto, the fourth Hokage, couldn't bring himself to look into his son's eyes. I'm sorry for everything. I was a terrible father. The one decision I made for you ruined your life. I'm really sorry. Please, but Naruto did not let his father finish, hugging him. Dad, thank you for everything you've done. Your solution was the only possible one. And I'm proud to be your son. You are hero. You gave me life and protected me at the cost of yours. If not for you and my mother, I would not be standing here now. Thank you for this opportunity. Naruto released his father, after which Kushina approached and whispered something in his ear. Because of this, Minato looked from his wife to his son several times and vice versa. But after a few seconds he smiled and nodded to his wife. We will give our blessing, Naruto, Kushina said with a smile on her lips. Thank you. I don't need more. Naruto picked up Kagaya and opened the portal, but just before he left, he was called out. Naruto-sama, what now? The Mizukage asked, thinking about the future of her village like the rest of the Kage. What are you collecting? What do you mean? He said irritably, interrupting the Mizukage, Naruto catching what she was leading to. They think we're some kind of monsters. Turning to the others, he loudly proclaimed. Mourn your dead, rebuild your destroyed houses, feed the refugees, start life from the beginning, at last. Think before asking stupid questions. If you are afraid of your future, I will answer you this way, the gods do not interfere in the affairs of mortals, because in their eyes they are only moments. See you again, my friends. Giving everyone his trademark smile, he stepped towards the portal. Naru, where are we? She asked holding on to his neck. I don't want to be interrupted. After all, today you are unlikely to fall asleep, my goddess. With his words, Naruto again drove his parents and Kunoichi with Shinobi into the paint and entered the portal with Kagaya in his arms. They ended up in the Blonde's clan lands, in the ruins of Yuzushiogakure, which stretched out in a valley with a wide river that descended from high mountains with snowy peaks and mighty forests at the base. A light fresh breeze caressed Kagaya's face. She couldn't take her eyes off the outlines of his red-patterned face that glowed in the light of the full moon in the sky, his red-blue eyes, which inspired some fear, but they both fascinated and aroused her admiration. Something wrong, Kagaya? Noticing her gaze, Naruto asked. No, nothing, she replied with a smile that was meant only for him. Naruto, holding Otsutsuki in his arms, walked over to a small two-story Japanese-style house with a terrace overlooking the river. They entered the house and the blonde put the goddess on her feet. Make yourself at home. Naruto said looking at Kagaya with a smile, I'll be right back. Kagaya stared at the fireplace where the fire was burning. It was in the living room, as was the leather sofa with armchairs, the beautiful patterned red carpet on the floor, and the massive mahogany table. The space around was decorated in a rich and tasteful way, but, to the chagrin of Otsutsuki, the blonde still did not appear even after 10 minutes, and she decided to look around. Kagaya went out onto the terrace and stood stock-still, looking at the river. Naruto was swimming there, but it was not that kept her from moving, but the fact that the guy was swimming without clothes. Kagaya caught her breath at the sight of the blonde's naked body. She couldn't bring herself to blink. How long will you stay there, my Heim? Naruto's voice snapped Kagaya out of his fantasies. Will you still join? Then turn away. She tried to pronounce the words with a threatening intonation, to which he grinned, but complied with her request. The girl on wadded legs approached the shore, undressed and slowly began to enter the river, while trying not to look in the direction of the brazenly smiling, naked guy. Turning her back to Naruto, Kagaya began to wash, but she had to interrupt this activity when the blonde pressed her whole body against her. And how long will you be embarrassed by me? He whispered into the girl's ear. Kagaya was about to reply but was stopped by Naruto's index finger pressed against her lips. The blonde turned Kagaya to face him and pressed his lips against hers. The goddess did not resist, she simply could not resist and respond to such a desired kiss. I love you, Kagaya. Breaking away from the girl's lips for a second, Naruto uttered those secret words that she so wanted to hear. I love you too, Naruto. Raising the girl in his arms, Naruto went ashore with such a beautiful burden for him and moved to the bedroom with the help of his eyes. The goddess was now lying on the bed with Naruto looming over her. I want all of you, Kagaya. He made her wince a little. I don't mind if it's you. In response, Naruto gave her his smile, which belonged only to her. Slowly looking at his girlfriend's delicious, flawless figure, Kagaya tried to cover her bare third-size breasts with her hands. Calm down. It was clear that she was worried, because this was her first experience after being revived. But now she is just a girl, one thought that she will become his very soon made her happy. After a while, she nevertheless removed her hands, but her eyes were still afraid to meet his. Slightly touching his hands, he kisses her breasts, caresses her tongue, bites her nipples, which makes a weak moan escape from her lips. Breathe, Kagaya, breathe, the girl repeated to herself. She hugs his head, and with jerky movements convulsively sorts out, ruffles his hair. He sinks a little lower and continues his caresses, which have already plunged her into a state of blissful languor. She feels herself becoming heavy and sweetly winds her chest. He sinks even lower and kisses her tummy, a little lower, more. She is embarrassed, involuntarily trying to free herself from his embrace. He notices this and, rising, again kisses her sweetly on the lips. He again returns to where he left off and kisses her tummy, a little lower and lower. He clung to her bosom and felt the warm juices on his tongue flowing from it. Working his tongue, at times pinching his sweet clit with his lips, he made Kagaya moan and squirm as her hands ruffled his golden hair at the same time. Penetrating the tongue into her womb, he simultaneously fiddled with her clitoris with his fingertips, which is why the latter was already on the verge of ecstasy. Finally, throwing her head back, a passionate moan came out of her mouth, her body trembled with surging feelings, and her hands squeezed his head for a few seconds. When she relaxed, he stood up with a grin on his face, licked his lips, wiping her wet juice from his lips. He's back where he left off and kisses her belly, a little lower and lower. He clung to her bosom and felt the warm juices on his tongue flowing from it. Working his tongue, at times pinching his sweet clit with his lips, he made Kagaya moan and squirm as her hands ruffled his golden hair at the same time. Penetrating the tongue into her womb, he simultaneously fiddled with her clitoris with his fingertips, which is why the latter was already on the verge of ecstasy. Finally, throwing her head back, a passionate moan came out of her mouth, her body trembled with surging feelings, and her hands squeezed his head for a few seconds. When she relaxed, he stood up with a grin on his face, licked his lips, wiping her wet juice from his lips. He's back where he left off and kisses her belly, a little lower and lower. He clung to her bosom and felt the warm juices on his tongue flowing from it. Working his tongue, at times pinching his sweet clit with his lips, he made Kagaya moan and squirm as her hands ruffled his golden hair at the same time. Penetrating the tongue into her womb, he simultaneously fiddled with her clitoris with his fingertips, which is why the latter was already on the verge of ecstasy. Finally, throwing her head back, a passionate moan came out of her mouth, her body trembled with surging feelings, and her hands squeezed his head for a few seconds. When she relaxed, he stood up with a grin on his face, licked his lips, wiping her wet juice from his lips. Flowing from it. Working his tongue, at times pinching his sweet clit with his lips, he made Kagaya moan and squirm as her hands ruffled his golden hair at the same time. Penetrating the tongue into her womb, he simultaneously fiddled with her clitoris with his fingertips, which is why the latter was already on the verge of ecstasy. Finally, throwing her head back, a passionate moan came out of her mouth, her body trembled with surging feelings, and her hand squeezed his head for a few seconds. When she relaxed, he stood up with a grin on his face, licked his lips, wiping her wet juice from his lips, flowing from it. Working his tongue, at times pinching his sweet clit with his lips, he made Kaguya moan and squirm as her hands ruffled his golden hair at the same time. Penetrating the tongue into her womb, he simultaneously fiddled with her clitoris with his fingertips, which is why the latter was already on the verge of ecstasy. Finally, throwing her head back, a passionate moan came out of her mouth, her body trembled with surging feelings, and her hand squeezed his head for a few seconds. When she relaxed, he stood up with a grin on his face, licked his lips, wiping her wet juice from his lips. Why the latter was already on the verge of ecstasy. Finally, throwing her head back, a passionate moan came out of her mouth, her body trembled with surging feelings, and her hand squeezed his head for a few seconds. When she relaxed, he stood up with a grin on his face, licked his lips, wiping her wet juice from his lips. Why the latter was already on the verge of ecstasy. Finally, throwing her head back, a passionate moan came out of her mouth, her body trembled with surging feelings, and her hand squeezed his head for a few seconds. When she relaxed, he stood up with a grin on his face, licked his lips, wiping her wet juice from his lips. Liked? Yes. The blonde was lying on the bed, and Kaguya was next to him and literally devoured his dignity with her eyes. Nature clearly did not deprive him, but what appeared to her eyes surpassed all her wildest expectations. For a moment, she even felt scared. But this intoxicating smell, the animal smell of a man, drove her completely crazy and made her forget about everything in the world. Come to me, she felt a little scared again. She understood that in a few seconds she would become a woman in a new body again. Relax. He caressed her head gently, kissing her gently on the lips. Kaguya hugged him and timidly, barely breathing, got accustomed to him. He gently pushed her legs apart with his knee. Another second and he's over her. It seemed to her that she would just die of fear. Apparently, intuitively, Naruto felt that she was trembling no longer with desire. And he's in no hurry. He again showers gentle kisses on her face, neck, bites her ear. Then he kisses her on the lips. So he had never kissed her before. It was fantastic for her. She has already forgotten about everything. Only his lips, nothing else. Feeling her relaxation, Naruto tightly pressed her to him, without breaking the kiss, leaning forward a little and, a sharp flash of pain shoots through his body, causing Kaguya to dig her nails into his back. But this pain is nothing. She had felt much more pain than this. That pain was emotional during her 1,000 years of imprisonment, so she decided to just endure this one. She feels a couple of tears roll down her cheeks. And it was not clear what they were from the pain or joy experienced. Another moment, and everything passes. All that remains is a slightly sore feeling inside her. Naruto whispers sweet words to her, stroking her head. Are you in pain? It doesn't hurt me. This is nothing compared to the pain that made me experience my seemingly eternal loneliness. Naruto, please, be by my side always and I will never be hurt again. No one could understand her last words at this moment except herself. I love you. Pulling him close, she kissed him on the lips. Only you can understand me, Naru, because you felt the same as me. He looked into her eyes with incredible tenderness, lovingly. And in his eyes, she read gratitude. He began to move, slowly at first, then faster and faster. She bent her knees and wrapped them around his waist. At that moment, he managed to almost completely enter her. Naruto hit something inside her and she was pierced by lightning, causing her to throw back her head for a moment and involuntarily scream. He freezes for a second and looks at her in fear. No, no, just don't stop, Naruto. He looks at her with some surprise. The one who just a moment ago was embarrassed by his every touch, now looked at him with her longing eyes and asked him to continue. This picture literally added even more excitement to his mind. It all seemed like a dream to him. But his mind and body told him that this was real and that all this was really happening. What is it? Real. Darling. And, him. As if to confirm the latter, he dug into her neck, leaving a purple hickey on her label. A reminder that now she belongs only to him. He kissed her on the lips and entered her again. She couldn't help but moan. Every cell in her body screamed her love for this man. Just surrender to him, surrender without a trace, to the peak, to the drop, dissolve in him, feel him in yourself, deeply, deeply, give him happiness, be loved. She felt that he was very good now. He groaned a little, kissing her, whispering some tenderness in a broken voice. Another moment and this sweet feeling of happiness became unbearable. The blonde gradually began to take on a more increasing pace, when she was already biting her bottom lip, barely holding back a loud moan. A few thrusts and Kagaya's body is shaken by a wave of incoming orgasm. Almost at the same time as her, Naruto erupted inside her in some kind of hoarse growl. But before his goddess had time to rest even a minute, he began to move again. Give me a break, Naru. Of course not. Along with the words, he tirelessly drove his instrument into her. But at some point, he smiled like a cunning fox, changing his position. Now she lay on her side in front of him. Naruto lifted one of Kagaya's legs and placed it on his shoulder as his seed slowly came out of her pussy. Now she was completely under his power, she could no longer think sensibly. His eyes were fixed on her, his movements each time reaching the same place, making her shudder and moan every time. Her entire body seemed to be pierced by lightning, and her mind left her head for a second, causing her face to become momentarily perverted with her tongue sticking out and her pupils rolled up. More, she asked in a languid tone, not believing in her own words. As you wish, my goddess. An hour later. Forgiveness, she groaned wearily. Kagaya was already more than satisfied, but seeing her lover's pleased face gave her a very bad feeling that this was far from over, and for good reason. What are you talking about, my Heim? I just warmed up. A little while later. Hiya. I feel great. With a bit of fatigue, he lay down next to the exhausted Otsutsuki. The whole room was literally filled with a man's smell, which is why he got up just for a moment and opened the window. Returning to his seat, Naruto, with a kind of stupid smile, fiddled with her hair and thought that he had achieved his goal. During this occupation, he did not notice how his eyelids began to grow heavy. Apparently, all the same, the war and such a marathon exhausted him thoroughly. He actually did not resist sleep and, with a sweet yawn, fell asleep. Part 7. Slowly opening her eyes after such a sweet night, Kagaya saw a clear sky, forest and animals in front of her. Several birds, a couple of squirrels and some other inhabitants of wildlife that could not be where she fell asleep in any way. The goddess was a little surprised by what she saw, but was not at a loss. POV Otsutsuki. I woke up in the center of a crater in the middle of a clearing in the forest. Oddly enough, but next to me all the trees were felled. The sun was just overhead. I did not have time to really recover when I felt several pockets of energy. It wasn't chakra, it was more like the mana that Naru told me about. And most importantly, where is he and where am I? You have to find him to figure everything out. Okay, 300 meters before they arrive. And what do we have? With the help of chakra, I began to scan every millimeter of my body and at the same time accumulate it. Strange, but it was not enough. Only at the level of the four-tailed. Chakra control is not bad, but far from the previous level. 200 meters, 7 people. Dojitsu works, but weakly. Byakugan is not developed as before. The level of Hamura or even his descendants is Hyuga. Samsara's eye closed due to lack of chakra. Kekiai Genkai, everything is in place. Yes, as they say, not a lot. End POV Otsutsuki. The crater was small, about 5 to 10 meters in diameter, and a detachment had already lined up around the perimeter, sent by the Fiori Council of Magicians due to the incident with a colossal energy release in the country in this region. All the mages looked at the Otsutsuki with curiosity. A young girl, long white hair, snow-white skin, eyes of the same color, symmetrical horns growing from her head, dressed in a light kimono. The magicians have not yet decided on any direct action. Who are you? One of the magicians asked, raising his voice from excitement, to which the captain of the detachment looked menacingly at his subordinate. And Kagaya just ignored it and remained silent. I beg your pardon for the stupidity of my soldier, the captain said in a calm voice. He was a middle-aged man with a normal physique for people with such activities. He glared at the magician, who allowed himself too much, who also bowed politely. Everything is fine, the goddess said. So, can you introduce yourself? Who you are? Yes, smiled the captain. John Carter is the captain of the Fiori country's censor mages. Now please, you, miss. Kagaya understood their language, but some words were unfamiliar to her, although this did not show on her face. Kagaya Otsutsuki. Miss Otsutsuki, where are you from? Carter asked again. Kagaya, looking around, came to the conclusion that she was definitely not in her world now. Other trees with a completely different range of colors. Turning her gaze away from the vegetation around her, she looked back at her guests. Already, nowhere, she drawled dejectedly, remembering Naruto. The magicians looked at each other. And where are you going? John asked immediately. I don't know where I should go. Otsutsuki didn't want to tell anyone she met about her plans to find Naruto. Is that how? Carter said. How do you feel about coming with us to the city of Magnolia? Positively. After 2 days of travel on a carriage and on a steam locomotive, Kagaya already explored the world with interest, asked her travelers about everything in order to know all the details about the world in which she found herself, and did not even resist on the way. Miss Otsutsuki, we are going to the mayor of the city, and, sorry, but we will have to handcuff you and hold you as a prisoner, Carter said a little hesitantly. Okay. She didn't tense at all after hearing the news, enjoying the sight of Magnolia. In the city, she was seen off only with interested glances. No malice, hatred or the slightest dislike. Some residents even turned around to look at the unearthly goddess, who was accompanied by an elite squad of magicians. Magnolia was truly magnificent. All or almost all of the buildings were in good condition, 3 stories and higher in the Venetian style. Parks, squares and fountains. There was a lot of greenery in the city, almost every private house had its own gardens. Magnolia, she was told, was divided into several sectors. The sector of the Academy of Magicians, where there were dormitories and training grounds under special barriers. The civil sector, where people lived and rested. Shopping area with shops, cafes, restaurants and more, as well as the central district, where the residents of the city hall and the huge square were located, where holidays and festivals were held. Kagaya was led to the residence, and then to the mayor himself. A vigorous old man of about 40, with a thick white mustache and a small belly, was dressed in a strict dark blue suit. In general, such a solid mayor. Remove the handcuffs, John immediately followed the order. Carter, stay. The rest of the magicians immediately left the office. So, I'm Bolivar Trump, mayor of Magnolia. Introduce yourself, please. Otsutsuki Kagaya, the rabbit goddess said calmly. Where are you from? The mayor asked, arching an eyebrow. I don't remember where I came from or who I was before. I woke up in a forest and the first person I saw was Captain John Carter with his subordinates, the goddess said, feigning humility, sitting in an armchair in front of the mayor, while thinking, I wonder how they would talk to me if they knew who am I really. All right, Carter, put on the handcuffs and bring Miss Otsutsuki out, and then bring her in. You don't mind, do you? Kagaya just nodded in agreement. Bolivar and John were left alone in the office. What do you say about her? Bolivar-san, she is a very interesting person. First of all, this appearance, her unusual eyes, white hair and, in addition, the horns on her head clearly say that she is not from the common people. And she's definitely not weak. She offered no resistance at all during the entire journey here. We stumbled upon it in the place where the sensors indicated that the mana had been released. At the scene of the incident, we found a crater with fallen trees, and this girl was sitting at the bottom. On the way, she behaved friendly, asked about everything, studied the area. What about her mana? Your squad is a censor. Unfortunately or fortunately, she has no mana. She's not a mage, oddly enough. We got it, keep going. Is there anything else? Nothing else. I'll bring a detailed mission report if you like, sir. No thanks, bring her and leave us. All right, sir, Carter bowed. Kagaya was shown back to the office and told to sit down. The mage left, closing the door behind him. So, Miss Otsutsuki, would you like to become a resident of our city? This is how to take and invite a stranger to live in your city, without knowing anything about him, In honor of what such a proposal, Mr. Mayor? Looking with curiosity into the eyes of the interlocutor, asked Otsutsuki. To be honest, my old good friend asked me. He just wants to talk to you, and you can answer him, and he will give me your decision. Okay, Mr. Mayor, where is your friend? I'll talk to him, and yes, please take off these bracelets. I feel uncomfortable, Kagaya said, raising her hands slightly. I apologize. The mayor took a key from a drawer under the table and removed the shackles of the goddess. Miss Otsutsuki, do you know how to get out of the building? Yes. Then he is waiting for you in the lobby of the building, Bolivar said with a sunny smile. And yes, Miss Otsutsuki, goodbye. Bye, Kagaya replied curtly and left the office. As she made her way down to the first floor, Otsutsuki thought of only one thing: was Naruto waiting for her downstairs? With each step her heart beat faster and faster with excitement. But approaching the exit, the goddess rabbit was upset because of what she saw. Miss Kagaya Otsutsuki, a voice was heard next to Kagaya, and she looked down to see a little old man with thick eyebrows and a small white mustache. He was wearing a white shirt with black pants, and beautiful black shoes on his feet. The old man had a briefcase on one hand and an umbrella on the other. Yes. My name is Yajima, I am a member of the Fiori Mage Council and would like to talk to you if you don't mind. The old man spoke slowly as he walked out of the building with Kagaya. No, I don't mind. Are you a friend of the mayor? Otsutsuki asked. Yes. Magnolia. Cafe Lotus. What did you want to talk to me about? Kagaya-sama, as I said earlier, I am a member of the Fiori Mage Council. 2 days ago, there was a very strong release of mana in the country, or rather in the Red Forest outside the city. The council immediately reacted to this and sent a squad of elite mages to investigate the incident and gather information. The rest, Yajima-san, I know myself. After tasting the jasmine tea, the rabbit goddess spoke. If I am an enemy or a spy, as you think, or a threat to the country, then why are you and the mayor offering to live here? I have to tell you. Nobody knows about you right now. I have erased the memories of everyone with whom you have been in contact during these days, and even the mayor will not remember you now. Looking towards the window, the old man said in a calm voice. Even so. And what is it for you, Yajima-san, do you know me? Yes and no, Kagaya-sama, now my main mission is to help you. The old man put the case on the table and opened it. There are 25 million precious and documents for land in the city center. Do you think I need your help? Kagaya said angrily. The burst of chakra released by the rabbit goddess frightened the patrons of the cafe, and Yajima didn't even blink, only upset because of the spilled cup of tea. Have you wondered, Kagaya-sama, why did you wake up in Fiori? Pouring divine nectar into his glass, Yajima said. Let's admit it. Kagaya herself thought about it more than once, but she never came to a clear conclusion. You are not here by chance, Kagaya-sama, you have been moved here. And you know who it is. And Naruto? Kagaya waited only for confirmation of her guess from the old man Yajima, who did not keep himself waiting and calmly nodded his head. In that moment, Otsutsuki's soul turned upside down. Part 8. And Naruto? Kagaya waited only for confirmation of her guess from the old man Yajima, who did not keep himself waiting and calmly nodded his head. In that moment, Otsutsuki's soul turned upside down. Do you know where he is? Unfortunately, no, the old man answered with a heavy sigh. And what should I do now? Otsutsuki began to get nervous, thinking that even he had abandoned her. The one who promised that he would always be with her, to whom she believed and entrusted her soul. Don't worry, Kagaya-sama. You are the most important thing in Naruto-san's life, he wouldn't let you go easily. Yajima said with a slight smile to cheer up Kagaya. Start your life over again, from scratch. He would like it. How can I start without him? The rabbit goddess whispered convulsively. You are strong, you can. Do you know why he moved me here without my knowledge? Otsutsuki asked, calming down a bit. I can't say, because I don't know myself. He'd better tell himself when he gets back. Wait for him, Kagaya-sama. The goddess was not a little embarrassed by the whole situation, but on the other hand, this is a great chance to start over. Yes, Naruto wasn't around right now, but no one knows what will happen tomorrow, and she agreed. A little while later, the goddess snapped her fingers and her outfit changed from a wide kimono to a black tank top with 9 white tamus on the back and tight jeans of the same color, and brown sandals on her feet. She had shortened her hair so as not to interfere, now it reached her waist. I imagine the strongest light guild in this country a little differently, Kagaya said to herself, standing in front of the guild. The building itself was a 3-story house with a name sign near the entrance and 3 flags in the center. As Otsutsuki understood, the symbol on them is the sign of the guild. Yajima talked about guilds, about light and dark. Kagaya was currently using her Byakugan to observe what was going on in the building. Noise and uproar, showdowns and fights between magicians. Carefully looking through the door, she saw the following picture: a mass brawl in which you can't make out a damn thing, and on the other side, near the bar, there was a girl with white hair, who was worried about happening around. One battle involved a pink-haired guy wearing a red t-shirt and yellow breeches with cinnamon boots on his feet and a white plaid scarf around his neck. Well, now you're screwed. Speak for yourself, frostbitten. They hit each other at the same time, some in the stomach, some in the jaw. I probably got into a fun company, Otsutsuki thought to herself, walking towards the girl who was standing near the bar. She looked the most adequate of all. She also noticed a young boy with yellow hair, green eyes and a lightning-shaped scar across the right side of his face. He was dressed in a purple shirt with blue jeans, and a fur coat hung on his back. Can you tell me where your master is? Kaguya asked as she approached the white-haired one. I'd like to know myself. Just a little more and the guild won't leave a stone upon a stone. And you, by the way, why? The barmaid asked the goddess. I wanted to join your guild. You're not going to leave, are you? Looking at the mass fight that her comrades staged, the white-haired one said, a little ashamed of her guildmates. There was some awkward silence between the girls. Meanwhile the fight flared up even more. No. What beautiful hair you have, Mira said in surprise. And you have beautiful, snow-white hair. Kaguya did not remain in debt. To which Mira smiled sunnily. Thank you. Exactly, what is your name? Kaguya. I'm Mira Jane. Shut up, Spain. At the entrance to the guild stood a little old man with a thick mustache and a jester's hat on his head. I just gone. And you have already fights. The appearance of the old man immediately silenced Mira and the others. Otsutsuki noted to herself that this old man must be the master. I see we have a guest. If it's not difficult, let me know your name, the old man said when he reached the bar. Otsutsuki Kaguya. I came to join your guild. And why exactly to our guild? I was told she was the strongest in all of Magnolia. From these words, Makarov directly blossomed before his eyes. Lexus was somewhat indifferent to what was happening, he just sprawled on the back of his chair and dozed off. Elsa had a strange premonition about her, so as she continued to burn Kaguya with the cold gaze of her brown eyes, she thought that Otsutsuki did not notice her gaze, but, unfortunately, the goddess had a Byakugan. Mirazana had a share of interest in her interlocutor. Well, if so, you are accepted. It's that simple, is it true? Kaguya asked doubtfully. Let's go. We'll give you a guild mark, Makarov answered curtly. Climbing the stairs to the third floor, they both entered the guild master's office. Otsutsuki didn't notice anything remarkable. There was a pile of papers on the table, and next to it was a seal. Where would you like to mark? Kaguya took the seal with her hair and placed it between her shoulder blades on her back. The master was a little surprised by this, but he did not ask questions. Welcome to Fairy Tale. I hope it becomes your second home. Thank you, master. Kaguya spoke politely. May I know if you have a hostel for a while? As a member of the guild, we can lend you money, and you will rent a room in a hotel. No need. I have money, the goddess answered, raising the case a little. I see. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock, I want to have a demonstration battle that will evaluate your ability as a magician and your rank in the guild. Ms. Otsutsuki, may I address you as you? Yes, master. The maximum rank obtained after the battle is a rank S. Rank can be obtained by passing a special exam, which is held every year. In general, while you settle down, get to know everyone. Coming out of the master's office, Kaguya saw Elsa waiting for her with her arms crossed over her chest and her back against a column. My name is Aleya Elsa, Otsutsuki Kaguya. Kaguya, please remember something. It is customary in the guild to follow the rules, and those who break them are punished. Let me list them for you. First, obey the master in everything. Second, if possible, do not use brute force in a particular conflict. Third, standard tasks are on the bulletin board near the bar. At least one task per week must be completed. Lazy people are not liked here. Do not take tasks from the second floor, this is only for the highest rank. All clear? Aleya asked in an icy and commanding voice. Yes, the goddess replied, grinning and walking past her, and Aleya remained standing there, clenching her fist in anger because of Otsutsuki's behavior. Going down to the first floor, Kaguya noticed that there was a noticeable increase in people. Now, a white-haired huge guy was standing next to Mirazana. On the other side, one could see a girl who drank strong drinks from the throat of a bottle. She was dressed in jeans and a swimsuit top. Otsutsuki gazed at her prospective guild members intently as she sat down at the table in the corner of the bar. Kagaya called to Mira, who enthusiastically took orders from the mages. Kagaya was sitting and waiting for her order, tea and a piece of chocolate cake, when she was approached by members of all the guild fights and two eternal rivals in combination. "My name is Gray Fullbuster," Gray said, and turned his gaze to his friend, Natsu Dragneel. "Where are your clothes, Fullbuster, eh?" He immediately looked at himself. "When did I have time?" As if he did not expect from himself, the guy shouted, "Pfft! Ha 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 ha." The pink-haired, who was standing next to him, burst into a cheerful laugh. "As always, Gray. But the brunette has already gone in search of his clothes. Kagaya, let's swipe." After Dragneel's words, everyone turned their attention to them. "Are you stupid or?" But she couldn't finish her sentence as Natsu charged in. But the guy could not even fix anything, as he was quickly immobilized by the Otsutsuki's hair, which quickly branched out and grabbed Dragneel. Kagaya lightly fired a raton at them so as not to kill the fool, and threw him into the far wall, causing shock from the onlookers. "You don't pay attention to them," Mira said, sitting next to Otsutsuki at the table and placing an order. "They are so stupid with us, but at the same time kind and brave." "I understand that," the goddess smiled after her words. "Kagaya, where do you live?" "I recently arrived and have not yet found accommodation," the goddess answered with a sweet smile. "So I don't know where to stay yet, but the master said that there is a hotel somewhere here. You can stay at my place," Mira blurted out enthusiastically. "Is it true?" The bunny goddess asked, a little embarrassed. "Is it true? I still live alone, and my brother lives in a men's hostel, and you can help pay for the apartment so that it won't be difficult." "Okay, if you don't mind, the two of you will have fun." The cheerful company of the guild went home. A few blocks behind the house where Kagaya and Mira lived, a girl sat on the roof of one of the buildings and watched them. "Ashina, I've completed my mission," the hooded girl said into the void. "Fine. Magami, now you are nobody, the shadow of everything, you are here and there. Your final mission, watch over the Otsutsuki Heim." It was almost morning, and Mira suddenly woke up with a strange sensation and headed towards the Otsutsuki's room due to a sense of curiosity that had come from nowhere. Silently approaching the door, which was slightly ajar, and looking inside, Mira almost gasped at Kagaya's cute appearance. She saw Kagaya hugging her pillow as she lay on her futon in only white underwear, but that wasn't all. Mira's gaze caught on the numerous hickeys on Kagaya's body left by the blonde from their last meeting. Mira suddenly realized what situation she was in now and blushed. The white-haired woman took a blanket and covered the goddess, walking to the exit on wadded legs. But at the door, Mira stopped when she heard the voice of Otsutsuki, "Ruto, and Naruto, Baka, stop it." After listening to the sleepy delirium of the goddess, Mira left Kagaya's quarters. Part 9. The snow-white goddess after her awakening, opening her eyes, did not know that she woke up in a dream. Kagaya wanted to inspect the place where she was at the moment, but due to the lack of light, this was very problematic. Only moonlight penetrated the room a little through the curtained windows, but this did not make it any easier. Kagaya wanted to get out of here at least blindly. Oddly enough, the Byakugan did not respond to the chakra supply. Whatever this place was, Heim had no desire to stay in it. It was necessary to get out of the bed on which she was, but for some reason the girl could not do this either. Her arms and legs were wrapped in golden chains. She was bedridden with no way out. Kagaya for some reason could not focus her chakra on her hands in order to free herself. Her huge reserve of energy seemed to rebel against her, thus making the girl almost helpless. That's why she lay in only white underwear to match her beautiful white hair. The charming breasts of the girl were hidden by an exquisite and unique lace bra. Kagaya looked down at her lower body, saw stockings and a belt of the same color, and the girl's intimate area was covered by a velvet lace bikini. The rabbit goddess was wearing one of the sexiest and most beautiful pieces of women's wardrobe, but she didn't care. Otsutsuki suddenly felt that the room was full of smoke. In a dark room, dimly illuminated by moonlight, opposite the bed to which the goddess was chained, sat a man on a classic leather armchair. His eyes were cold and clear and judging. "Have you finally come to your senses?" Looking into the uncomprehending lilac eyes of the goddess, a dark silhouette spoke. "How rude to make me wait so long," the stranger said self-confidently and smugly in the darkness. He and the goddess were separated by only a couple of meters. Who are you? Kaguya asked furiously. In the words of the goddess, one could feel the hatred and bitterness that Otsutsuki was experiencing at the moment. The curtains, as if at the behest of someone, magically parted, letting in the moonlight and allowing Otsutsuki to see the stranger's face. And after moments of waiting for the goddess, eyes. Those mesmerizing eyes with Rinne Sharingan and Tensigen. Kaguya once again met with the light of immense pride and strength. She couldn't take her eyes off his red-blue eyes and their bearer. Naruto was leaning back in a massive chair wearing bottomless black dress pants for men, a shirt of the same color covering the top half of his body. It could be seen that half of the buttons on his shirt were unfastened, which revealed a rather large gold chain, with various kinds of precious jewels, and a golden-haired athletic chest. In his left hand, a lit cigar was clamped with 2 fingers, which filled the space with smoke. Naruto. Nervous, said the goddess. A wave of emotion swept over her, knocked her out of the rut and did not allow at least one thought to be formulated in her head. I have so many questions that my brain can't process it. Where did you disappear to? Why am I bound? And what's going on here? Kaguya, be quiet. We have nowhere to hurry. What? What's wrong with you today? Explain to me. Otsutsuki raised her voice a little in excitement. Hey! Why are you crying, woman? The dragon prince calmly spoke as he let out the smoke from his lungs. Let's be quieter, it's night in the yard. In such a situation, you speak in such a calm voice. Now the rabbit goddess is completely confused. Tiso, am I the wrong one here? Shut up. Raising his voice, and thereby causing the goddess to flinch, said Naruto. But. Kaguya mumbled, then lowered her eyes so as not to meet his eyes. She was offended because she did not receive an answer to at least one question. Whoa. That's better. He said with a satisfied face. Silence reigned in the room, neither he nor she wanted to start a conversation, only occasionally exchanging glances. The goddess, meanwhile, was trying to get rid of the shackles. You don't have to try. After unsuccessful attempts, Kaguya, realizing that all her efforts were in vain, resentfully turned her head to the side. Where are we? Otsutsuki asked. Nowhere. He snapped. Naruto, you're baka. Kaguya. Kaguya mumbled in response without even looking at him. You're so cute when you're embarrassed. What? Why yes you, bunny. Naruto said, after which he got up from his chair and began to slowly undo the buttons on his shirt. What do you want? The goddess answered, lying on her side with her back to the blonde so as not to see his impudent face. I want you here and now. Yes, you went. How rough. As if someone gave you a choice, woman. You are my property. After saying that, Naruto sat down on the bed and grabbed Otsutsuki's tender shoulders, turning her towards him to look at her beautiful face. Lie down and enjoy yourself, Kaguya, the dragon prince said without taking his eyes off her. Wah. Before the girl had time to finish, the golden-haired man dug his lips into her lips and parted them with his tongue, thus depriving Otsutsuki of the opportunity to protest. The kiss was rough. His hot breath made him as passionate as possible. He so madly wanted to take possession of her without a trace. His tongue went deeper and deeper, causing the goddess to move away and unconsciously push Naruto away. Now there was nowhere to retreat, and so she had to return the kiss. Their tongues caressed each other, circling in a kind of dance. She felt the warmth pass through her body. She was haunted by the thought, and this is from a simple kiss? He kissed her passionately. Both enjoyed the process, but the breath of the goddess and the Stormborn is not infinite, and therefore they soon broke away from each other, leaving only a thread of saliva that binds them. After the blonde began to move on to the main thing. First of all, the former Uzumaki began to cover the girl's neck with kisses, at the same time freeing her from the shackles of chains and underwear. Naruto's hands reached behind the Otsutsuki's back and began to unbutton her bra. Kaguya was embarrassed when she appeared in front of Naruto almost naked. Therefore, the pale face of the goddess began to be covered with a slight blush, which was perfectly visible due to the specific complexion. She was only wearing white panties, hiding her pussy. Naruto moved down to his collarbone, leaving wet kiss marks in his wake. His hands were not idle either. With his hand, he caressed her breasts of the third size, then roughly, then gently pinching her nipples. Moments later, the touch of her lips moved from her collarbone to her chest. Bahamut then pinched her nipples with his lips, sometimes lightly biting the nipples of the goddess. Otsutsuki didn't know where to go from excitement. Moans of pleasure escaped her lips. The hand of the dragon-like deity stroked the goddess's mouth-watering thighs. Let's leave the prelude. Tearing himself away from the chest of the white-haired one, the dragon prince said. Are you ready? Why yes, it looked like the goddess was already ready for whatever the blonde would suggest. Release me, Kaguya spoke rather quietly. The blonde at the beginning removed only the feathers from the legs of the rabbit goddess. I didn't ask your opinion about chains. I don't like making love in this position, Kaguya said commandingly. She tried to speak convincingly, turning her eyes on Naruto. I said, no, Naruto. After his words, Bahamut extended his hands to the girl's head, and he himself stood, and then began to bring her closer to him, bringing her face to his dignity. No. Naruto, Otsutsuki said, dissatisfied with this situation, but the blonde didn't seem to hear her. Approaching the guy's penis, the blonde turned her head to the side, when suddenly the blonde applied force, and his penis was in the girl's mouth. Surprised, she even almost choked. Kaguya, not without Naruto's help, soon began to rhythmically swallow his dignity. He rested on her right in the throat, causing a rather unpleasant sensation. Her tongue did not stop caressing the head and the trunk of the penis. This monotonous process continued for several minutes, until Bahamut felt that his patience was about to reach its limit. Without giving the Otsutsuki a chance to back down, Naruto splashed his seminal fluid right into the girl's mouth. Her purple eyes widened for a moment. He looked down at the goddess, looking at her expectantly. Swallow. For a moment, she opened her eyes again to the voice of the blonde in surprise, struggling with herself. She had to obey. As soon as Naruto let go of her head, Kaguya immediately pulled away, clearing her throat and spitting out the rest of her semen. Don't spit it out. The blonde ordered and then moved closer to the girl. You. Kaguya glared angrily at Naruto, to which he chuckled. It is for you. The guy got kicked in the stomach. Rolling over on her back, the white-haired woman crossed her arms over her chest and kicked golden-haired in the chest, sending him flying several meters beyond the bed, and then stood up and looked down at Naruto, showing with her whole appearance that she intended to be the main one here, after which she said, Hey, you. I love you. And may you be half god and half dragon. She pointed at him with a finger, smiling, if there are so many forces, show what the blonde is capable of. Kaguya's words sounded bold and self-confident, like a challenge that Naruto, with his pride, simply could not resist. 12 a.m. Most of the guild members gathered at the training ground. Makarov stood next to Mira and Elsa in the shade of a tree. They were waiting for the Otsutsuki clan's Heim, who overslept the guild rank duel. Elsa inside herself scolded the goddess for her lack of punctuality. Keeping the master waiting is disrespectful. And Mira just exuded calmness, as if she was in nirvana. Above the rooftops of Magnolia's buildings, Kaguya was flying towards the guild in a good mood. She just glowed with happiness. Tonight, by the light of the stars and the moon, she was with her beloved dragon prince. Even though it was just a dream, it gave her hope. Upon the arrival of Kaguya, not much, but Elsa scolded. To be an hour late is unheard of, but the goddess apologized. Kaguya, as a guild master, I give you the right to choose. These two magicians that you see in front of you are talented A-rank magicians. Elsa Scarlet and Mira Jane Strauss are experienced in combat and have seen and completed many missions. They are worthy opponents for anyone. The choice is yours, Kaguya. The Sogworld members screamed and whistled in anticipation of the epic battle of the girls and made bets, and Otsutsuki thought about the choice, looking at the white-haired one, then at Scarlet. Master, I'm listening to. Can I, if the girls do not mind, fight both at once? I can certainly give permission. But aren't you overestimating your strength, Miss Otsutsuki, to fight two A-rank magicians at once? Give me permission, master. Elsa asked. Mira doesn't mind either, does she? She looked at her friend who was standing next to her. She also gave. Old man. Her reserve of magical power is already at the level of God's chosen one. The words of Lexus were shocking for the girls. To say that they were surprised is an understatement. As, however, and the audience behind, which was in the same state. Right, he said angrily. Master, is it true? Elsa spoke up. Her reserve of magical power is simply huge, Makarov looked at the goddess that stood in front of him. Mira, Elsa, this duel will be like an exam for you too. You are ready? The girls nodded in unison at the master's question. From this, the noise of the crowd that stood behind doubled. Get ready. After creating a dome-shaped barrier with a few gestures of his hands and going behind it, he called out, "Started." As soon as the master gave the signal to start the duel, Mira began to attack. Algeria. Strauss exclaimed and immediately jumped a few meters to the side, reincarnating as a demon. Her hair lengthened and gained volume, something like a black crown appeared on her head, and a purple suit with iron claws on her arms and legs covered her figure. Yes, this demoness surprised the goddess. Well, Mira-chan, show me what you can do. Otsutsuki crossed her fingers in a sign of concentration and activated the Byakugan. Mira went on the attack. Mira, stop. Kisama, Elsa began to quickly walk around Kaguya, coming towards her from behind. Meanwhile, the rabbit goddess and Mira had already exchanged a couple of blows, none of which hit the target. A direct blow from the girl's hand was easily blocked by her palm, the second blow from her left hand was also blocked by her hand. What interesting eyes. Kaguya-chan, she drawled, curiously examining the veins leading to the dojutsu. Thanks, but those eyes are way more interesting than you think, Mira-chan. 64 strikes from the heavens, a wave of point strikes unexpectedly sends Strauss flying for a good tens of meters, at the same time destroying her invocative appearance. A sharp turn back and Kaguya catches the blade of the sword in his palms a few centimeters from his face. Alea immediately looked at her hands in surprise. Not every day there is a person who is able to catch a sword. The hands of the goddess took on a dark color after using the koten of the element of iron. You wanted to kill me. A slight turn of the palms to the right and the blade of the sword breaks in two. I don't think it's enough. Is this going to be? Electric Raiden-infused punch to the stomach pierces her armor to such an extent that the layers of iron form a round dent. All the air left Elsa's lungs from this blow. Quickly recovering, Elsa rearmed herself and changed her armor to a kimono with two blades at the waist, when Mira had already managed to recover, standing next to Elsa. Strong, my friend. Any ideas for Scarlet? Will you be better than me in tactics? The rabbit goddess chuckled and decided to let them come up with a plan for now. Maybe they would actually make her fight seriously. Mira, how about ranged combat? Understood. Black matter. Strauss exclaimed, holding out her palms in the direction of the Otsutsuki. A dark sphere formed in her hands, and around Elsa, various types of weapons appeared in a yellow glow, hanging in the air and aimed at Kaguya. Maces, axes, crossbows, spears, swords, daggers. There were so many things, but judging by her face, her maximum was about 50 types of weapons. While pretending to be impressed, Kaguya sarcastically began to applaud, which somewhat enraged Elsa, even though she didn't show it outwardly. From Myra's sphere, a spiral beam of magical energy hit, spinning in the air. At the same time, Elsa's weapons flew from the other side with approximately equal speed. And all this gamut of techniques was aimed at Kaguya. After a few seconds, the goddess clapped her hands and simply disappeared into the ground, and no one was at the epicenter of the explosion. Since the announcement of the battle between the magicians, the guild members, along with Makarov, have been following the progress of the battle between Kaguya, Mira and Elsa. The sight must have been mesmerizing. Otsutsuki's spells attracted the attention of the fairy tale crowd. How interesting. Her fighting technique. I suppose, Mikao began to reason aloud after what he saw. She knows hand-to-hand combat and is proficient in it. Did you notice that too, old man? Lexa said as he watched the changes in Otsutsuki's eyes. Yes, it's amazing. Her strikes are not focused on inflicting external injuries, but on internal ones. That is why the face of the world has disappeared. She delivered accurate strikes to the mana circulation nodes and blocked them. Not everyone can do that. The master was surprised. What? What are you talking about, Grandpa? Dragneel didn't understand. A supernatural power that allows you to influence the real world by using the magical power of Muroku or mana contained in the body of each magician. When using magic, this power is spent, and when it is completely exhausted, the magician can no longer use magic, and Kaguya blocked their flow from the source. He repeated in a more understandable language. I still don't understand, old man. Makarov sighed slightly at his words. Probably, but I think it's related to the one that caused the veins in Kaguya's eyes to change, or is it more like she uses her eyes for this technique? Gray asked or spoke aloud, surprising the others. The other mages didn't even notice it. Lexus noticed that when needed, Full Buster had a good mind and powers of observation. But I thought that your brains, Gray, have long since frozen and are incapable of clever thoughts. Specifically trying to piss off the brunette, Natsu said. You run up, a walking fire. Haven't received in a while. Grabbing Dragneel by the scruff of the neck, the brunette exclaimed. A two. And what will you do to me? Yes, you pulled me up, Dragneel. Get it. The brunette punched the pink-haired man in the chest. Without hesitation, Dragonslayer responded to the brunette with juicy uppercuts to the jaw. 25 again, eternal rivals staged another fight. Kagaya's entire left hand was made of black metal and blocked the blows of Elsa's sword. She stepped back and counterattacked, while Mira came in from the rear with her demon fist. The Otsutsuki noticed this thanks to her special vision. Therefore, it sharply goes to the left, and the demoness misses and, due to the inertia of the body, hits the ground. Does she have eyes in the back of her head? Alea said, standing next to Mira. It's time to change arsenal. Strauss said, looking into her friend's eyes, to which Alea nodded her head in agreement. Do you have an ace up your sleeve? Kagaya asked out of curiosity and interest. Yes, Kagaya-chan, we're A-rank mages, so. Satan's soul. She exclaimed, casting a spell that allowed her to assume the form of what appeared to be the very first demon she had absorbed. In this state, all her physical and magical abilities increased many times over, as well as new abilities and skills, and wings grew behind Myra's back. An ability that allowed Strauss to fly. Mira, having taken on a new form of a demon with horns on her head and a tail, flew up, starting to throw large fire spheres from her hands, which left decent craters ranging in size from 4 to 5 meters. When Elsa, armor of the celestial axis, said the name of Ali's transformation spell, which summoned armor made of a special silvery metal for her. The structure of this armor resembles feathers, which, nevertheless, form a rather impressive defense, protecting the user from attacks from various directions. For metal wings appear behind her, and in her hands are two one-handed blades, which are made of the same metal as the armor. Among other things, an indefinite number of blades appeared in the air around the caster, which Elsa can manipulate with the power of thought. In their base form, there are just over a dozen of these blades. Strauss and Titania hovered in the space above and looked down at the goddess. The rabbit goddess chuckled and crossed her arms over her chest, looked up, and then spoke. I have something to show you too. Part 10. There was a moment of silence over the training ground. The girls exchanged glances. After rearming, the demoness and Titanium were fully prepared for the fight with the rabbit goddess. Let's start. Alya said. Then, tightly squeezing the sword in her palms, she rushed forward. Hey! Don't attack alone. Elsa! Strauss called out, but it was too late. Elsa fired a series of strikes at top speed, but Kagaya easily deflected them with black metal rods that suddenly popped out of her hands. After the attack, Elsa changed her already rather battered sword. After another failed attack, a feeling of slight anxiety arose in her. And only one thought rushed through my head, why? What to do? Mira rushed to Elsa in the form of a devil. Otsutsuki, through 3 chakra jumps, moved away from them at a distance of 50 meters, and put out one hand in the direction of the rivals. Sway-tun. Water wall. She shouted, after which she spat out a huge amount of water from her mouth, thus forming a kind of wall. The goddess raised her second hand to the clouds and said, Raiden. Thunderstrike. Bright flashes caused by strong electrical discharges went through the water barrier. The girls, realizing that getting hit by this technique would have bad consequences, immediately took off in an attempt to avoid this attack. Elsa landed 20 meters from the wall of water that crashed to the ground, wielding gleaming blades. Realizing that Otsutsuki could not be taken with ordinary attacks, Alea began to analyze the opponent and the course of the battle itself. I came up with a very competent fight, and even combined elemental attacks on the go. In addition to all this, it also skillfully controls mana, quick reactions and reflexes. Yes, her level is not lower than the master level. Lucky that she came to us. Elsa, be ready, Mira said. Yes, Alya nodded in response. Fire release. Demon breath. Mira screamed. Kagaya blinked rapidly. A momentary flash from the rapidly approaching red flame, burning everything in its path, slightly unsettled her. But she did not lose her head and, having filled her lungs with air, she prepared for a counterattack. Kato. Big fireball. A ball of bright flame burst from the goddess's mouth. Two huge clots of flame met in the center of the polygon. These techniques were not inferior to each other in strength. The temperature inside the barrier has risen greatly. Impressive, Mira-chan decided to praise the girl Kagaya. Suddenly, a shadow darted past Otsutsuki. Thanks to her good reflexes, she managed to block the attack with her metal arm. It was a blow from Titania's huge sword Avalon. Avalon is famous for its destructive power. Before the attack, Elsa also charged the sword with mana, which, on contact, caused a bright flash. Kaguya did not want to give in to the girls in this duel, but she also could not immediately reveal all her trump cards. So the only thing she could do was jump to the side. Kagaya decided it was time to act and rushed forward. She quickly approached Elsa. She reflexively became in a combat stance. When Otsutsuki was within sword range, she vanished in a bright flash of lightning. After performing a feint, Otsutsuki moved to Mira. The demoness didn't even have time to blink when Kagaya was right behind her. Strauss did not have time to come to her senses as the goddess had already formed hand seals for the immobilization technique. Strauss spun around and thrust her iron-clawed hand forward, directing a blow straight at Kagaya. But the attack speed of Otsutsuki was great. Surely even Lexus with his element of lightning would not dodge it. In general, Mira had no chance. Reinforced detention seal crashed into Strauss' pile, immobilizing her. Peace. Alai screamed. I'm fine, Elsa. Keep fighting. How many aces do you still have up your sleeve? As many as it takes, Elsa-chan. Let's not get too carried away with the battle. The goddess chuckled, pleased with the impression she had made. Yes. That's right. We need to end this. Titania agreed, her brown eyes flashing. Summons. Armor of the Black Wing, breathing evenly and calmly, Scarlet spoke a spell that summoned armor made of a special dark metal, with silver trim. A feature of this armor are two dragon-like wings growing from behind. This armor greatly increases all of the user's physical attributes, making her an even more formidable opponent. Elsa's aura just boils. This is a supernatural aura, embodied in the form of a kind of pressure, which makes others feel physical pain, fear and horror, if they are significantly inferior to the sorceress. But Kagaya was not inferior to her in strength, and because of this, only Fullbuster and Dragneel, standing behind, felt fear. Under normal conditions, the aura does not function, but in combat conditions or with strong excitement, it is activated instantly. Elsa. I once had the good fortune to meet a very powerful man, although it would be insulting to call him a man. He changed me, and after him no one will surprise me. Otsutsuki said with a sincere smile. After her words, the goddess did not realize that she blushed. I'll try, Kagaya. Come on, Elsa. But first, Kagaya began to accumulate and concentrate chakra in order to use the technique. The eyes are the window to the soul, and the more beautiful they are, the better. What do you think, Elsa? The question of the goddess puzzled Aluya. Let's admit it. But can you imagine, Elsa-chan, that such a harmless and fragile organ can act as a dangerous and powerful weapon? There are many things in the world that we do not know. Good answer. Waiting for the perfect moment for eye contact, Kagaya spoke. Elsa inadvertently looked into the open eye of samsara on the forehead of the goddess. It was a big mistake for her to look her opponent in the eye. Genjutsu. Tsukuyomi. Due to the damage received from the attack, Titania lost consciousness, and Otsutsuki grabbed her, thereby preventing her from falling face down into the mud. Elsa, get up, why are you lying there? Mira said, looking at Aloy's motionless body. Kagaya, what's wrong with her? She passed out due to an illusion. Illusions? Yes. It was a mental attack. Master. The goddess spoke as loudly as possible, it's time to stop the fight. The fight is over. Shouted Master Makarov. How are you, Mira? Otsutsuki asked as she removed the seal from the demoness. I will live. She already wanted to get up, but seeing the joyful crowd and the master, she refrained. Strauss stepped out of her demon form and crawled over to Aloy. Kagaya Otsutsuki, as the guild master of Fairy Tail, I declare you an S-class mage, the old man announced solemnly, causing the crowd to shout and whistle with joy. Mira, go while you bandage the wounds. And you, he pointed to Natsu and Gray, take Elsa to the room. Let her regain her strength. Titania was taken to one of the spare rooms on the second floor of the guild building. The attitude of the guild members towards the entry of Otsutsuki varied. Respect, joy with a share of envy reflected on their faces. The next day, Otsutsuki, with a slightly sleepy expression, after eating what is called a hearty breakfast in the morning, applied the flight technique and went to look for a store of magical supplies. After some time of searching, Kagaya found a shop to the southeast of the guild and without hesitation went into the building. The goddess stood at the shop windows and observed various goods. The merchant was very glad to see her. As the first customer of the day, he offered her a 20% discount on all items. "Thank you for being so generous, but I never got your name." She looked at the owner of the store, sitting at the table. "Sorry for my rudeness. My name is Wells." "Funny name. By the way, my name is Kagaya. Nice to meet you." "I am very happy too. Wells, this is what interests me." Kagaya handed the owner a piece of paper on which something was written. The seller read the note. "Great. Perhaps I have it, maybe?" The goddess asked without changing her tone. "Yes, it's still better than nothing." After his words, the seller went to the warehouse to look for goods for Otsutsuki. "I'm sorry for the delay." "Nothing." Covered in sweat and dust, Beals put the old atlas on the table. The atlas contained maps, tables, diagrams. "Here is what you were looking for." "Thank you. You were also looking for materials on the history of the countries of the continent." The seller put 3 volumes of books. "Here they are." "Fine. Thank you. I have to go to the guild. How much do I have to pay?" The girl asked. "Taking into account the discount from you, 15,000 precious." "Here, thanks for the help." Kagaya handed over the money for the purchased goods to the seller. "And thank you. Come again." A quiet ringing of the door bell was heard, announcing that someone had left the shop.